Chapter 326. After all, being targeted by Xue Lin brought some trouble to Chen Guang. But it wasn't too much trouble. Anyway, he refused to admit it. Xue Lin knew that he was talking nonsense, but she couldn't do anything about it. Xue Lin pestered him for 3 or 4 days, but she finally returned without success. He was driven away by Wu Tong, who came to help Chen Guang. Chen Guang was also starting to feel vexed about being pestered like this, so he called Wu Tong over. Watching Xue Lin turn around and leave, Wu Tong turned around and punched Chen Guang. "You finally stopped hiding from me. What are you hiding from?" Chen Guang smiled hypocritically and scratched his head. "Nothing."
Bah.
"I heard from the shadow woman that your shoulder has recovered? So magical? Is there really such a magical medicine in the world? I don't believe it. You must have some secrets, but if you don't tell me, I won't bother to ask you," Wu Tong said as she threw herself on Chen Guang. Most of her body pressed on Chen Guang's shoulder, and at the same time, she intimately rubbed Chen Guang's shoulders with her hands. After thinking through some things, her careless temperament made her movements more bold and unscrupulous. Feeling Wu Tong's ample chest on his shoulder and smelling the fragrance on her body, Chen Guang had no idea what perfume it was. At the same time, he was filled with hatred in his heart. This woman wasn't willing to let him have a good meal and was trying to seduce him on purpose. She must be torturing him on purpose, right? "Sister, if you do this again, I will be suffocated." Chen Guang gritted his teeth and said, praying in his heart, "Can you at least give me some real benefits?" Wu Tong put her face in front of him, smiling without saying a word. "I know what you are thinking. I will give you 2 words, don't even think about it. At least before you recover, don't even think about it." "Well, I knew it would be like this. Don't give me a chance. Otherwise, I will let you taste the resentment of a 10,000-year-old virgin. I will make you hover between life and death, grabbing the railing and tearing the bedsheets. I won't tease you anymore. I still have something to do at the station, so I'll take my leave first." On my way here, the woman in the shadow called me again to complain. She said that I kept avoiding her questions. She had asked her friend to bring a new medicine from America. It had no side effects at all. It was a kind of health supplement. "How about this? I won't harm you. As your elder sister, I'll throw caution to the wind to help you. As long as you obediently accept the treatment and take that medicine, I'll personally give you a sweet taste and help you do that with my hands. How about it? But if you don't listen, don't even think about it. Think about it yourself." Wu Tong whispered these words into Chen Guang's ear. Her warm breath caressed his ear, tickling it. Seeing that Chen Guang was rooted to the spot, Wu Tong smiled like a victorious general and left. Looking at her back, Chen Guang's heart was so tangled. Could it be that I can only accept this cruel reality? For the sake of sweetness, should I throw away my integrity or not? Thinking about it carefully, it was nothing more than admitting that he had a weak kidney. Sooner or later, he would find the right opportunity to prove his masculinity. A moment of humiliation was nothing. He gritted his teeth and made a decision.
Just as he was thinking about this, his phone rang.
He picked it up and saw that it was a text from Wu Tong. She added, "Oh yes, I've seen the medicine that Uncle Chen made. It's also very nutritious. We can't let it go to waste." Chen Guang's vision darkened. Tang Ying's imported health supplements and his dad's 4-fold recovery soup. How could he survive with both of them at the same time? The price was a little heavy, but for his sexual happiness, he felt that he could fight for it. Such a strong will collapsed instantly after seeing his dad's super nutritious soup. It was too frightening. Looking at the jar full of all kinds of expensive Chinese medicine, as well as the lamb ribs and mutton that had completely changed color after being soaked in the medicine, he felt that he was about to have a nosebleed just by smelling it. "Dad, you're really my biological father. Although I'm a sugar daddy, I'm still young. I don't consume that much energy. Can you not make me these things?" The father and son sat on the rooftop. Chen Guang looked at Chen Guoli bitterly. Chen Guoli patted his shoulder. "Let's not talk about these useless things. Didn't you go to see Zhang Yage a few days ago? I just saw the news on the internet. It said that Jiang Yage had a bad cold for the past 3 days and didn't step out of the house. Actually, I know that's all a lie. 3 days. A whole 3 days. Son, it's been hard on you. Chen Guoli looked at Chen Guang with tears in his eyes. F***ck. Dad, why are you looking at me like that? This is all a F***king coincidence, okay? I just hid in the hotel for 3 days, okay? Your son is clearly standing right here, so why are you looking at me as if I'm a half-dead person? Lin Fan thought to himself. Look at your face. You've lost so much weight. Chen Guoli was the same as Feng Rong. No matter what state Chen Guang was in, he would always say that he was thin the moment they met. How about this? I know you don't like to eat these things. I'll check on your condition later. If you don't show any signs of weakness, I won't make you these things anymore. But you have to eat this box. Why? You have to give me a reason. Is it so hard to build trust between people? Your son's physique is strong. How can he be drained so easily? Chen Guoli sighed again. Do you know how much this box costs? How much? More than 200,000.
Did you see this ginseng?
Just this one is worth more than 80,000. There are 6 or 7 other types of Chinese medicine of similar value. If they go to waste like this, won't my heart bleed? Pfft, my biological dad. This is crazy. Completely crazy. Chen Guang was in a bad mood. Chen Guoli sighed. I can't help it. I had to ask a big favor to get this prescription. They said that it would only be effective if we used such a good medicine. They didn't earn any money from me. I asked someone else to find these herbs all over the country. None of them are fake. As a father, how can I not know my son's suffering? I didn't pay a single cent for the money you gave me to pay the court. Your mother's illness doesn't need so much money anyway. Since it's just sitting there, I might as well spend more money to make up for it. It's taken from the people and used for the people. This is also an investment that can help you better serve your customers. But then again, how are you going to explain to Sun Xiaoxuan in your current situation? I think she's not bad. It's just your situation.
Sigh.
Chen Guang's eyes widened. He looked at his father in a daze. He didn't expect his father to think so much in secret. He was really worried about his son. But then again, I'd rather you don't worry about this. Maybe I can live a little easier. In the end, he didn't have the courage to finish the 200,000 tonic soup on the spot. He just said that he would use it as a midnight snack. After sitting in the ward for another hour, Chen Guang decided to slip away. His heart was hanging by a thread as he held this thing in his hand. If he accidentally knocked it over, the 200,000 would go to waste. Thinking about it made his heart bleed. Chapter 327. At first, he refused to eat it, but in the end, he still couldn't bear to let the 200,000 yuan go to waste. Forget it, my head is very hard, I won't die so easily with some nourishment. Anyway, I told my dad that this will be the last time. I really can't waste it. Since I lied, I have to admit it with tears in my eyes. Squatting by the corner of the corridor, Chen Guang gulped down mouthful after mouthful of the indescribable taste. He didn't even waste the soup. 200,000 yuan. Working for someone? If I'm not a billionaire now, I'll be pissed to death by you. Come to think of it, it's not wrong to follow my dad's train of thought. If Jiang Yage really provided for me. Up until now, the money I've given him is almost 10 million yuan, so spending 200,000 yuan to improve his business is understandable. Anyway, as long as the customer is satisfied, this business can continue, right? Dad, you really know how to run a business. Burping, Chen Guang got up, but just as he turned the corner, he was stunned. A woman was standing there with her hands on her waist, as if she had been waiting for him for a long time. It was Tang Ying. At this time, she was holding a brown glass bottle of unknown origin, looking at him with a devilish smile. Young man, come and try the medicine in sister's hand. Wait a minute. Chen Guang let out a burp. Tang Ying looked at the lunchbox in his hand. Just in time, this medicine is for begging. You can give it to me. With that, she pounced on Chen Guang, pried open his mouth, and stuffed a pill into his mouth. It's not that Chen Guang can't resist, but because his arm just became a Qilin arm a few days ago, He knows he's too strong, and he's afraid of accidentally hurting her. Moreover, Tang Ying holding the bottle in her hand is just a pretense. In fact, she already has a pill in her palm, waiting for the moment when Qinguang isn't paying attention, so she can stuff it in his mouth.
Hey!
Feeling something being tossed into his mouth, Qinguang took a step back and yelled out in pain.
Gulp.
The pill went down his stomach. Seeing that her plan had succeeded, Tang Ying happily clapped her hands and shoved the bottle into Qinguang's hands. It's done. You brat, you are also dishonest. You force me to use force. Why are you so difficult to deal with? Accept your fate. This medicine won't kill you. It has been popular abroad for more than half a year. It's a pure plant extract with no additives and no side effects. It costs a few $100s a bottle. Just treat it as a gift from me. You'll have to buy it yourself next time. Qinguang put on a long face. Big sis, it's not like that. What was in the box in my hand wasn't a normal bento, it was a recipe that my dad found from who knows where. He said that it was 4 times stronger than the recovery soup last time. 200,000 per jar. I just gritted my teeth and drank such a big pot of soup, and now you're giving me this medicine. I'm a little flustered. Tang Ying was also stunned.
Huh?
A pot of soup that costs 200,000 renminbi? Qinguang nodded. 1 ginseng inside costs 80,000. Oh my god. Even if it's a tonic, it can't be like this. Tang Ying was shocked.
Puke.
Spit it out for me. Qinguang shook his head. No. It's 200,000 renminbi. I can't spit it out no matter what. Something bad will happen if you make it up. The tonic I made for you is also very powerful. Tang Ying panicked. Qinguang still shook his head like a rattle drum. It's okay. My body is made of iron. I can handle it. Tang Ying saw that he had made up his mind and could only be anxious. She gritted her teeth and said, You can't leave tonight.
Why?
Go to my dormitory. How can I let you go with your condition? It's better to stay in the hospital. If anything happens, you can be saved in time. My roommate went home today. You can sleep on my bed, and I'll sleep on my roommate's bed. Qinguang pondered. That's fine. Actually, I'm a little guilty. In the middle of the night, something did happen to Qinguang, and it was not a small matter. In the middle of the night, he began to feel hot all over. A large pot of nourishing soup made of expensive Chinese medicinal herbs in the stomach, coupled with the nourishing health products from abroad, the taste was really too sour and refreshing. But this heat was different from the heat of a fever. It came from inside his body, and it was reflected in a certain part of his body. At first, Qinguang gritted his teeth and held on. But later, he began to groan subconsciously. His mind was clear, but a certain part of his body was swollen like it was about to explode. Tang Ying did not sleep well to begin with. When she heard Qinguang tossing and turning on the bed, and even heard him groaning, she woke up in shock. She turned on the light and rushed to his bedside to ask him if he was feeling uncomfortable. At first, Qinguang did not want to admit it. But Tang Ying had the heart of a doctor and almost wanted to call someone to send him to the emergency room at the last minute. Only then did Qinguang reluctantly admit it. It was not a stomachache, nor was it dizzy. It was just that a certain part of his body was so tenacious that it felt like it was about to explode. Even now, Qinguang felt strange about what happened next. A man and a woman were sitting together in the doctor's dormitory, watching movies. Qinguang had found the goods himself. He had 35 tons of dry food in his online drive, so there was no need to ask an experienced driver for help. About 20 minutes later, the first wave was over. At first, Tang Ying was too embarrassed to watch. But later, she made up her mind. If something really happened to Qinguang today, the health tonic she had stuffed into his mouth might be the straw that broke the camel's back. Of course, she was not someone who was easy to deal with. It was not the first time she and Wu Tong had watched these movies together. In the end, Tang Ying could only put on the attitude of a doctor and pulled a chair over to Qinguang's side. It was so much so that she even put on a euphemistic excuse to check if there were any signs of edema or congestion. When the guy finally let out a comfortable moan, rolled his eyes, and subconsciously leaned his head on her shoulder, Tang Ying did not even bother to hide. At this time, she had already thought it through. I'm a doctor anyway. It's only right and proper. About 40 minutes later, she was almost gnashing her teeth with hatred for what she had just said. The first release was not a real release at all. It was the beginning of the nightmare for the two of them. This guy's recovery speed was faster than expected. Of course, it could also be that the tonic and imported medicine were too powerful. The same move was fresh the first time, but the second time it became torture. But Chen Guang still relied on the unprecedentedly powerful Kirin arm to stimulate his superhuman potential. Overclocking vibration, easy to use, no explanation needed. However, the third time came. No matter what he did, it was useless. He looked like he was Zhao Ritian. Chen Guang was at his wit's end. He turned his head and looked at Tang Ying. Sister Tang Ying, I'm at my wit's end. Please save me, or I'm going to explode. Tang Ying's heart was filled with regret. If she had known that something was wrong, she would have asked Wu Tong to come here. After all, wasn't she in a hurry to deliver herself to him? Although I'm a doctor, I don't have the courage to be so straightforward. Chapter 328. Tears welled up in Tang Ying's eyes. Somehow, the two of them had ended up like this. Although she didn't hate him, perhaps she still had that little bit of extra emotion after the embarrassing incident at her house. But ever since she found out about Wu Tong's feelings for him, although Tang Ying's desire to help him treat his kidney deficiency hadn't changed, that extra emotion had long been quietly erased. But today, it had suddenly turned out like this. Without any precaution, it had become like this. Tang Ying face-bombed. How could I face Wu Tong? But Chen Guang's condition was indeed very serious, and it had something to do with the medicine she had fed him. She couldn't ignore it. In the end, the doctor's emotions prevailed. Tang Ying gritted her teeth. How about I use my hands to stimulate you? Maybe it'll work? Don't even think about eating me. I won't agree to it. Chen Guang shook his head like a raging pendulum. Impossible, impossible. Sister Tang Ying, you're so much older than me. How could I be interested in you? I didn't even take advantage of you last time when you were so drunk. Tang Ying sucked in a breath of cold air. She should be happy with this guy's words, but why did it sound so wrong? You rascal. What do you mean? Do you think I'm ugly? That I've let you down? That's embarrassing, isn't it? Chen Guang hurriedly explained, No. I'm just afraid that you'll have a knot in your heart. Just treat me as a pitiful patient. Tang Ying rolled her eyes. I've always treated you as a patient. Don't let your imagination run wild. The third time, thankfully, there wasn't a fourth time. Tang Ying felt like her hands were about to break. Chen Guang applied some lotion on his hands, or else he would really feel like he was about to burst into flames. That night, Chen Guang slept very well. Although he had used up a lot of energy last night, he managed to survive the nourishing soup and her unlucky American meatballs. He only felt a little sore in his back, but it wasn't a big deal. Tang Ying was miserable. She tossed and turned on the bed, unable to fall asleep. She rubbed her hands until they were almost rotten. She subconsciously smelled the scent. She was really on the verge of breaking down. He felt that he had been tricked by this father and son duo. You guys made use of my sympathy and put on a good show for me. His time was short. This is called kidney deficiency. If he was weak, then there was no one in the world who wasn't. An entire half an hour passed, half an hour. My arms are breaking from exhaustion. I won't even be able to hold my chopsticks properly tomorrow. Early the next morning, Tang Ying glared at Chen Guang with a red face and dark eyes. Swear to God that you won't tell anyone about this. Heaven knows, earth knows, I know. Wu Tong can't tell either. Chen Guang stretched out 2 fingers and pointed to the sky. I swear. I will definitely not tell anyone about this. If I go against this, may I be struck by lightning and not. Tang Ying covered his mouth and said, All right, don't say things like, I'll die a horrible death. If you really have a bad tongue and let it slip, I'll just lose face. God is watching over me, so there's no need to swear such a heavy oath over such a small matter. Now you should believe that I don't have kidney deficiency, right? Chen Guang chuckled and moved his face closer to Tanging. Looking at the usually dignified doctor blushing shyly, he couldn't help but feel indescribably pleased. Tanging rolled her eyes at him. All right, I'll be damned if I believe you.
Get lost.
I don't want to see you. Keep this medicine for yourself, and take it in a few days. It's a few $100, don't waste it. Just treat it as a tonic. Get lost. Chen Guang shrank his neck and ran away. Although last night's incident was a scam, he couldn't deny that he felt a little sour and refreshed. Of course, the happiest thing was that he could finally regain his manhood in front of Tanging, a doctor who always thought that he had kidney deficiency. Let's see if you still dare to call me weak in the future. However, there was something else that slightly troubled him. He really couldn't tell Wu Tong about it. He wasn't stupid. Returning to the dormitory alone, he sat in the empty room and played a few rounds of Dota. Then he stood by the window and looked around. The huge dormitory was empty. Originally, there were people coming and going in the enclosed courtyard, but now, there were only a few sparrows playing in the scorching summer heat. Sighing, Chen Guang sat back in front of the chair and yelled, "I'm so bored." He could actually hear the echo. Without anyone around him, it was as if the whole world had become empty. Suddenly, it was summer vacation. All of his classmates had left, and his mom wouldn't be discharged for another 10 days or so. These days, Azure hadn't done anything at all. After all, he had just dealt with the super powerful Punishment Realm and the Qilin Arm Realm, and even the Heavenly Holy Grail had to take a break. The makeup exam would only start next semester, so it wasn't time for him to study at all. He had 180 million in his pocket, and he didn't have the fighting spirit to go online. Azure had set her eyes on this 180 million, and it could go down the drain at any time, but this unreasonable woman wouldn't let him do anything. Thus, Chen Guang had lost interest in learning how to do business. In any case, even if he mastered it, he wouldn't be able to use it. All of a sudden, it felt like he was so bored that his balls were aching. After playing several rounds in a row, he didn't meet Zhang Luhua again, and he crushed his opponents without any suspense. The aftereffects seemed to be gradually alleviating, but it was still a little strenuous, and after a long time he still felt nauseous. Now, he couldn't play Dota anymore, and he was completely at a loss. Who would have thought that I, the Grand Lord Guang, would also have such a day when I don't even have someone to talk to? What should I do to pass the time? Unconsciously, Chen Guang opened his Weibo on the computer, and before he knew it, he had gained hundreds of followers and hundreds of replies. It had been almost 5 months since he last updated his Weibo. Obviously, he didn't have the potential to become an internet celebrity. He had also received a lot of private messages, most of which weren't pleasant to listen to. Most of them were from Jiang Yage's diehard fans, but of course, there were also haters pretending to be fans. A disdainful sneer appeared on Chen Guang's lips. "You bunch of pitiful bugs. This elder brother and your goddess are very familiar with each other, okay? How could a big shot like this elder brother be angered by the private messages and replies of weak scum like you? Don't *King make a fuss, okay?" 10 minutes later, he silently pressed the button to close the replies, delete his most recent Weibo post, and set his private messages to reject strangers. Fortunately, Lord Guang didn't have heart disease, otherwise he would have been angered to death. What a *King dog. Could he still happily use Weibo? No matter how thick-skinned this elder brother was, he wouldn't be able to withstand these people's endless abuse. Thanks to the hundreds of new replies and private messages, Chen Guang did a good job of revising his Chinese language and felt the profoundness of Chinese literature. In the private messages, he saw a message from Jiang Yage. It was probably because she finally realized that she had replied to Chen Guang's message. It was supposed to be a tease between the two of them, but instead, it caused some of her irrational and crazy fans to keep scolding Chen Guang. "I'm sorry, I was clearly joking with you. I didn't expect those people to be like this. I'm also very troubled. But it seems like you don't use Weibo much, so you might not have seen it. If you see it, you can send me a WeChat message to scold me. I love you." Chen Guang clutched his chest again. He was disgusted by Jiang Yage's words and felt a little suffocated. He recalled his experience at Disneyland with these two people again. He couldn't bear to look back on the past, leaving him with scars all over his body. It really had been a long time since he opened WeChat. He opened it to see what these two people were talking about. Chen Guang felt that a person like him was destined to not have many friends. He didn't even chat on WeChat, so how could he be close to his sister? Chapter 329. When he opened it, it was indeed all useless nonsense. Jiang Yage was still using the same method, adding some useless but self-deprecating jokes to her selfies. This woman's Photoshop skills were getting better and better, and her photography skills were also improving. In addition to her selfies, there were also many photos of her traveling around the world. The photos were beautiful, and they were even post-processed. Even though Chen Guang was not interested in her photos, he still felt that the landscape photos she took were quite beautiful. He was secretly envious of her. He did not have the talent to be a photographer, but this woman almost made a name for herself. In the past, he used to use Lin Jingwei's DSLR for a while. Later, he felt that the composition, lighting, lenses, and all kinds of special effects had to be added in order to take beautiful photos. It was too troublesome, and he broke down. Other people had sent dozens of photos, and it seemed that it was a little too much not to reply. Chen Guang replied casually, "The scale is too small, I'm not even interested in replying. My phone's memory card is very precious. Please only send large-scale photos." In addition, Jin Shirue said something that made him a little more concerned. Deng Xiaozheng, The Big Beard's Tears for a Nation, was finally going to be released. Filming a movie was also quite troublesome. From filming to post-production, to publicity, to the actual release, there were a lot of things waiting for people to do. When Chen Guang sneaked into the crew to shoot that scene, they had actually already shot the second half of the scene. At the same time, the post-production had been following up. Coupled with his relationship with Big Beard Deng, as well as the accurate grasp of the Bureau's censorship policy, this rather heavy historical blockbuster could be released in the summer. Originally, Chen Guang did not like to go to the movies. After all, as an old bachelor, it was easy to get hurt in that kind of place. But this time, he decided to go, and he had to watch the first scene. The reason was very simple: he was going to appear on screen. It was rare to have a few opportunities to act cool in life. How could he let go of such a good opportunity? When the time came, if he was accidentally recognized by the beautiful women coming out of the cinema, they would point at him and scream, "Look, this was the super handsome deputy general." Then he shook his head. "Yes, you didn't see wrongly. The silver-armored deputy general whose acting skills were off the charts and who was domineering and cool was me." Then he would be able to hold a girl in one arm and do some shameful things in a nearby hotel. Just thinking about it made him look forward to it. It was a pity that Jin Shirue and Jiang Yage would be attending the premiere in Beijing. The two of them even invited him in private, saying that they had prepared a VIP box ticket for him. In fact, he would be sitting behind the two women. Chen Guang was a little tempted, but he decided against it. It was too unnecessary to fly from the 5 capitals to the Yanjing. He had sold the Patek Philippe that the two of them had given him for money. Even now, he had a knot in his heart and felt that he had let them down. Previously, he was so poor that he had no choice but to sell it. He also needed money to save his life, so he didn't think too much about it. Now that he had become someone who did not lack money, when he thought about this matter, he felt a little ashamed to raise his head. What if the two of them excitedly asked how the watch felt and whether the time was accurate? How should he answer? Did he sell it? Or should he buy it back? Forget it. He had already sold it to them. They helped him a lot because of Lin Jingwei. How could he have the face to buy it back? Therefore, in fact, Chen Guang's thoughts about Jiang Yage and Jin Shirue were to avoid them for the time being. Although it was good to be a celebrity, if he had too much contact with them, his life might be ruined by the paparazzi. He didn't want to be famous for such a meaningless thing. Chen Guang's WeChat reply to Jin Shirue was much gentler. He told her not to just focus on work and to pay more attention to rest. After scrolling through Weibo and replying to WeChat, he began to feel bored again. Leaning against the back of a chair, Chen Guang's mind wandered. What should I do next? Right, since I have nothing to do anyway, Why don't I think about how to make a second statue in the world in the cup? After some careful calculations, he had experienced the world in the cup 6 times. On average, 3 times a month and once every 10 days. The first world in the cup was when he learned English in the Sea of Time. There was no hope of making the Sea of Time perfect and erecting a statue. The second Dota Hell training seemed to be something he could think about. The racing god training ground was already perfect. Sharpening pencils seemed to be something he could do. Let's not talk about the unlucky incident of the punishment realm. The world of Karen Arms? Alright, that was even more unlucky. Brother Ming was the best at sharpening brass fireworks in the world. Others would only think of him as an idiot. When the time came, would the statue be made of brass fireworks or my pair of Karen arms? Just thinking about it made him feel hopeless. So it seemed like he could focus on Dota and sharpening pencils? He felt like he could do both. Anyway, he didn't lack money now. It wouldn't be too much for him to raise a few million to set up a club and form a team. Liuli wouldn't fight him to the death, right? The more he thought about it, the more he felt that this idea was feasible. Previously, he might not have had much hope when he could only last 2 matches, but now he could probably last up to 4. Even if he participated in the International Invitational Tournament and reached the finals, he could at most play a set of best-of-5 matches. When that time came, he could go on a winning streak and at most play 5 matches in the final set of best-of-5 matches. It wasn't impossible, but the teammate couldn't be too strong. He had to give people the impression that he was a god with 4 legs. Otherwise, he wouldn't be recognized as the best in the world. Dota and LOL were both team games. He had to make the others have a clear gap with him. Otherwise, victory would only be attributed to the team. That's right. It was decided just like that. But forming a team wasn't something that could be done in a short period of time. He had to think of a way to gather a group of people. How about this? He would first try to fight his way to the top of the Chinese server's ladder. Then, he would find a few good players in the wild or old retired players. They would be around the level of 2nd or 3rd tier players. When that time came, he would have the money and the people. He would be able to clinch an international championship in one go. He didn't have to sit firmly on the throne of the strongest forever. As long as he was recognized by the world at that moment, he would be able to trigger the conditions for completing the world in a cup. That wasn't right. Professional competitions were very professional now. If he wanted to register, he would have to register first. Forget it. He wouldn't form a new team. He would just purchase a 2nd tier or 3rd tier noob team and help him register his name as a substitute. Then, he would kick the players who played well and keep the noobs. No, it had to be the kind of noobs who were famous enough among the professional players. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to highlight his strength. Those who weren't noobs enough or weren't famous enough, he would kick them all. It didn't matter if they were disbanded after the competition. He just wanted to shine for a while. Then, he would start looking for an unlucky team to purchase from now on. Chapter 330. After thinking about it for a while, he felt that this matter was troublesome. Although he played this game, he was not a member of the esports circle. He was just a typical fan, so he did not know much about these things. Forget it. I'll let this matter hang in my mind for now. As for now, Chun Guang decided that he wanted to be an internet celebrity. That's right, it would be much easier to prove that he was the best sharpener in the world. Anyway, he would not have any competitors. He would first record a pencil sharpening video and upload it online to at least accumulate some popularity. Then he would find a chance to contact the Guinness World Records. But then again, contacting Guinness was also a troublesome matter. He suddenly felt that he needed a capable person to help him take care of these things. As the owner of the heavenly Holy Grail, he could not waste his limited life on these chores, right? He could not help but think of Lu Fei. When he was in Xiangjiang, Lu Fei took care of everything. He lived a very relaxed and happy life. He did not need to care about anything else and only needed to race. With someone to help him take care of all these chores, he could focus on his own strengths. How comfortable was that? He had not understood the mystery before, but now he knew that he was lacking people. Now that he was considered half a nouveau riche, he needed a useful accessory. Although Lu Fei was a talent, with her family status, it was already very kind of her to help him once. How could he trouble her again? Besides, she had helped him earn this bit of wealth. In her eyes, it was nothing. She should be the one hiring him. Forget it. It was really difficult to find a trustworthy and outstanding person who could take care of all aspects. This matter was also troublesome.
He would put it aside for now.
Old man should first change his Weibo name to Almighty Superman and become an internet celebrity first. To do a good job, one must first sharpen his tools. Before officially starting filming, Chen Guang sent a WeChat message to Jin Jiang and Lu Fei, telling them that he would be updating a video on his Weibo later and asking them to help repost it. Anyway, he would not pay any advertising fees. From now on, he would embark on the path of being an internet celebrity. With Jin Jiang and Lu Fei's reposting, he would be going against the heavens. Anyway, he wasn't short of money. If necessary, he could buy a few million zombie fans and get them to post millions of fake comments. Then, all the other big verses would have to kneel down in a matter of minutes. In that case, he would first delete anything that might expose his personal information on Weibo, lest he was exposed. It was enough to be a quiet, handsome man on the internet. There was no need to ruin his real life. After he was done, Chen Guang decisively took out the V-shaped Special Agent Team flexible mask that he had used quite well in Xiangjiang from the wardrobe and put it on.
Get to work.
No, wait, let's go to the snack bar on the pedestrian street and clean out their pencils first. Half an hour later, he uploaded a video with extremely low filming skills, but the content was enough to blind countless people. He named it the best pencil sharpener in history. In this 8-minute video, he demonstrated his terrifying pencil sharpening skills. Peeling a rose in 5 seconds was a beginner skill. Carving out a peony in 3 seconds could barely be considered a pass. The real supreme realm was to carve out 10 completely different well-known statues in 2 seconds. The Statue of Liberty, the Redeemer in Rio de Janeiro, Egypt's Sphinx, Easter Island's Moa, David, the Olmec's Big Head, Motherland Calling, the Thinker, the Little Danish Mermaid, and the little boy who peed everywhere. That's right, in 1 second, 10 statues, lifelike, perfect original miniature wood carvings. Chen Guang couldn't have done it in the past. Thanks to the Kirin arm, after familiarizing himself with the ultra-high frequency vibration, he integrated it into his pencil sharpening skills, which made his skills sublimate again. At the end of the video, he took a close-up shot of each statue, which would definitely shock countless people. Once the video was sent out, he didn't care anymore. Anyway, the 2 girls would not give him face. After he was done with this, he finally plucked up the courage to pick up physical chemistry and read it for more than half an hour. Thanks to Sun Xiaoxuan's courseware, otherwise, this course would really kill him. It was really too hard to learn, too depressing. Finally, he finished reading a big chapter. Even with the help of the courseware, he was still dizzy. Chen Guang threw the book away and decided to read online literature to recover some of his blood. Oh, the poor author who chased after him some time ago finally made it to the shelves.
Poor, too poor.
18,000 readers liked it, and the average subscription was only about 700, which meant that there were about 17,300 people reading pirated versions. This poor guy howled every day that he had to support his family and couldn't go on living. Young man, you really think too much of human nature. What's the use of howling about being poor?
Who would care about you?
In this day and age, what people think about is free reading. Isn't it stupid not to read? Everyone knows that authors are robots. They don't need to eat to write a book, especially a poor author like you. Not only are you a robot, but you're also a robot dog. You don't need to be fed. If you want to live, you have to honestly write 10,000 words a day. Do you think that insisting on writing 10,000 words a day will move them? How many people do you think will understand how tiring it is to write all day? Stop howling here. You're disturbing my free meal mood. If you're not happy, come and scold me in your book review section. I'm giving you face by reading your book, okay? I'm giving you face. Can you use it to soak in soup and eat steamed buns? You even dare to collect money. You're such a drug dealer. Chen Guang scanned the book review section and found out that this poor fellow actually dared to do something like defending against EB. He decisively scolded him. Serves him right. Other people in the book review section said that 17,000 people were worried that you would be a eunuch. They were waiting for you to finish writing before coming back to fix it. You defending against DB is ruining our mood and hurting our faces. These scums in the end. Chen Guang couldn't help but curse in his heart. When the old man was at his poorest, he still insisted on supporting the original book, okay? $10 a month was nothing. This poor fellow was acting again, saying that he was still writing at 5 or 6 in the morning. Whether you believe it or not, I don't believe it. I don't believe that you have cervical spondylosis, insomnia, obsessive-compulsive disorder, or depression. But I don't lack money. Therefore, Chen Guang happily slapped out the Alliance Leader title. He didn't give the poor fellow, who boasted that he had the world's strongest fancy bootlicking skills, any chance to get close to him. He closed the book review section and didn't join his fan group. He hid his achievements and fame and was the proudest of pretending to be pretentious. Then he started reading happily. To be honest, although this silly guy was a bit of a loser, he was quite happy to read. He thought that he would just muddle through the day. Around 5:00 in the afternoon, he suddenly received a call from Zhu Jifa. That's right, it was President Zhu who lent his poor arena car to Chen Guang and spent 20,000 yuan to repair it. He brought his little beautiful secretary to Wujing and was now rushing to the city hospital. He planned to visit Chen Guang's mother first and ask him to eat together later. Chen Guang hadn't seen his old friend for a long time. Thank God, at least someone came to save his boring life. Therefore, he quickly drove to the city. Chen Guang also planned to take the opportunity to let Zhu Jifa's little beautiful secretary drive the Rena back to his hometown. Now that he wasn't lacking money, he shouldn't treat himself badly. To improve his life, he should start by changing cars. At this time, Chen Guang still didn't know that after Jiang Yage and Jin Shuiwei reposted his Weibo, the internet was in an uproar. Chapter 331. Jin Shuiwei and Jiang Yage each had tens of millions of Weibo fans, and each Weibo post had at least tens of thousands of reposts and tens of thousands of replies. But although the two women usually ate and lived together, their spontaneous Weibo content was always different. Only this time, the two of them reposted the same video almost at the same time, and each sent an irreconcilable accompanying text, which was instantly pushed to countless fans' Weibo. Jin Shuiwei. This is my idol. I've never seen anyone sharpening a pencil like this. Everyone quickly go and take a look. Please repost, please spread. Jiang Yage. At first, when he asked me to repost this Weibo post, I refused until I watched the video first. Just now, my assistant asked me why I was kneeling on the ground playing with my phone, and now she is kneeling beside me. Wait, why is Sister Shuiwei kneeling out of the room? The two different accompanying texts, coupled with Chen Guang's dazzling pencil sharpening skills, the combination of the two instantly produced a chemical reaction, and the final result was an instant explosion. But there was something strange. Why was there nothing under this all-around Superman's Weibo? There was no verification, and even the replies were closed. The entire Weibo only had this video, like a zombie account that was temporarily registered. But Jin Shuiwei and Jiang Yage both paid attention to this zombie account at the same time. Who was this mysterious guy? After the instant explosion, more and more possibilities were speculated in the hearts of the people, causing Chen Guang's video to sweep the internet in an extremely short period of time. More people spontaneously joined the discussion. At first, it was because of the attention attracted by Jin Shuiwei and Jiang Yage's repost, but gradually, people were divided into two factions. One faction thought that it was impossible, and it was definitely special effects, while the other faction thought that the video was completely real, and this all-around Superman guy could really do it. Soon, the technical party among the folk experts jumped out, and from a professional point of view, they analyzed Chen Guang's video frame by frame, verifying the second faction's view. The video was completely real. Even if it looked like a movie, it was real. The technical party came to a conclusion, but it didn't stop the debate. More people jumped out, accusing the technical party of boasting that they were folk experts, but in fact, they were paid 50 cents. This infuriated the technocrats, and another wave of debate broke out. But no matter what, if there was a debate, there would be a topic, and if there was a topic, there would naturally be popularity. This time, it was even more incredible. More and more people spontaneously joined a repost party and became free water users. At first, these topics stayed under Jin Zhang's Weibo, but gradually, other big accounts joined in the ranks of reposting and commenting on the video. Perhaps they were doing this for the sake of the two young big shots on their left and right hands, or perhaps Chen Guang's video really got them excited. These internet celebrities also had their own fans. Under these people's Weibo posts, there were countless comments and reposts. There were also discussions among friends on Weibo, which was not a big V, but a small circle. As a result, Chen Guang's video went viral. It really went viral. Like a wildfire, it swept through the entire Weibo circle in just over 2 hours. Life was so unpredictable. How could Chen Guang have thought that a sudden idea would cause such a sensation on the internet? The birth of an internet celebrity had a lot of coincidences in it. Jin Zhang's repost was the trigger, and the content of the video was the skeleton that supported it to become popular. The coincidences and accidents in the instant that it became popular became its wings. Perhaps it was because his V-shaped special agent mask added a lot of mystery to the video, and the complete closure of the comments made him seem even more unique. Or perhaps it was because of the debate between the technical party and the skeptic party that made the video even more popular. It was probably very difficult to find a reason. In short, his video went viral. It completely went viral in just over 2 hours. And it was obvious that it would continue to go viral. Because the topic of the strongest pencil sharpener in history directly broke into Weibo's hot search list at lightning speed and began to spontaneously appear in front of more people. It could be foreseen that in the next 2 days, unless another hot topic that was enough to attract everyone's attention popped up, no one could stop this video from being constantly reposted and spread. From the time Chen Guang uploaded the video to the time he arrived at Wujing City Hospital, the first video he uploaded under the name Almighty Superman went from being unknown to being famous all over the country. His Weibo fans also shot up from the initial 1,000 or so like a rocket. 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 when he arrived outside his mother's ward. The number of Almighty Superman's fans had forcibly exceeded 500,000, and it was still rising. At this level, he could really achieve the idea that he had by chance but had not been able to put into practice. 500,000 followers, and all of them were living people. He could indeed accept advertisements. This was something that many operating accounts might not be able to do even if they worked for half a year. But he only used 2 hours, and he didn't even realize it. Jin Shiriyue and Jiang Yage were also quite busy. After helping Chen Guang forward the video, they went to work. Otherwise, they would have called Chen Guang. When he arrived at the ward, Zhu Jifa had already chatted with Chen Guoli and Feng Rong for about 10 minutes. Chen Guoli's work at Old Zhou's hot pot restaurant in the county had been taken over by Zhu Jifa's retired father. The two families were old friends. When Zhu Jifa's family's printing factory was in trouble in the early years, the Chen family had helped a lot. Zhu Jifa was basically equivalent to the nephew of Chen Guoli and his parents. Seeing that Chen Guang had come, Zhu Jifa put on the attitude of a big brother. Don't you know that you should spend more time with Uncle Chen and Aunt Feng? Why are you still in school when the school is on holiday? Chen Guang rolled his eyes. He thought to himself, what do you know? I've been working like a dog recently. I only have a little rest these 2 days, okay? Chen Guoli patted Zhu Jifa. Xiao Fa, don't scold Xiao Guang. He's been worrying so much about us that his body is about to collapse. You two brothers, when you get back, save whatever nourishing things you can for him. Wait, Dad. What you said doesn't sound right to me. Chen Guang was too lazy to respond to Zhu Jifa. This bastard was always acting like a big brother just because he was 3 years older than him. Boss Zhu, you're so busy every day. Why did you come to the 5 capital? Can you not call me Boss Zhu? Zhu Jifa's balls were hurting. He turned to the little beautiful secretary beside him and said, Hu Ling, I've told you many times not to call me Boss Zhu. Now this guy has something on you, right? The two brothers hadn't seen each other for a long time, and it was quite lively as they bantered with each other. Chapter 332. When it was time to eat, he originally planned to ask Chungwuli to go out to eat together. However, the old man said that he could not leave this place, so he did not want to go with the youngsters and let them make their own arrangements. By the way, what are you doing here this time? How much does it cost to get the whole car? It's quite comfortable to sit here. Chun Guang sat in the passenger seat of Zhu Jifa's BMW 525 and asked casually. Zhu Jifa was not very familiar with the road conditions in Wujing. He was very nervous when he drove, afraid that he would violate the rules. He was even more afraid that the roads in Wujing were dominated by taxis. If he were to slip and fall, it would be very distressing. He was not in the mood to explain to Chun Guang at all. He stared straight ahead. Don't ask about adult matters. Don't disturb me while I'm driving. Chun Guang was instantly enraged. F***Sika. What do you mean adult matters? Although I'm a university student who has not graduated, I already have a net worth of 200 million. If you piss me off, I'll buy your factory and let you watch the gate. Perhaps he realized that his words might be too aggressive, so Zhu Jifa added, by the way, I haven't asked Donnie Feng how much the surgery will cost. I heard that a kidney transplant will cost about 500,000 to 600,000, right? I really couldn't help much before. The factory needs to support people, and there isn't much cash available. Fortunately, your family found a way to borrow money, but it's not good to always owe others. After I settle this matter, in less than half a year, I'll help you repay the money first. You're going to graduate soon, so don't go to the sports car. Study hard, and don't fail too many subjects. If you fail too many subjects, you won't even be able to get your graduation certificate. He said such a long paragraph in one breath. He was so nervous that cold sweat was coming out of his temples. He was really focused while driving. Chun Guang's anger immediately dissipated. He did not expect Zhu Jifa to pay for the transplant. He knew his difficulties. Don't be fooled by the fact that he was tinkering with a printing factory. In fact, it was not easy to run a business these days. There were so many people, big and small, and the profits of the printing industry were already very low. A large factory could only move a few tens of thousands of working capital. However, the first thing he wanted to do now was to help him pay off the debt of 5 or 600,000 yuan after he earned the money. Chun Guang was touched. Everyone knew that if it was a loan of 5 or 600,000 yuan, it would take an ordinary family a year or two to repay it. This trader's son was a good person, but his mouth was cheap. Chun Guang knew that Zhu Jifa had always been like this, but he couldn't stand his big brother attitude. Don't talk so much. Look at how nervous you are. Why don't you move aside and let me drive? The racing god of this generation, the invincible man that everyone looks up to, is personally driving for you. Are you honored? Zhu Jifa ignored Chun Guang. Shut up. It's not enough that you drove my Rena to that state, and now you want to harm my BMW 5? Don't even think about it. I'll can kill you if I die. It's going to cost more than 400,000 yuan. I bought this car with a mortgage loan to keep up appearances. So far, I have 0 failures. Don't let me be the first. All right. Just focus on driving. Chun Guang rolled his eyes. He was on the verge of collapsing from Su Tao's actions. The three of them drove around for about 10 minutes. Zhu Jifa first parked the car in the parking lot of the chain hotel where he stayed, then invited them to sit in the Sichuan restaurant next door. Seeing that he wasn't interested in talking about why he came to Wujing, Chun Guang didn't ask anymore. He was afraid that this trader would talk about adult matters again. If that happened, he wouldn't be able to control his restless arm and give him a slap in the face. Chun Guang's attention shifted to the other side. When they were waiting for the dishes to be served, Hu Ling went to the toilet. She pulled Zhu Jifa's shoulder and smiled wickedly. The two of you have an affair. Don't talk nonsense. Zhu Jifa shook his head violently. When you parked the car at the hotel just now, Hu Ling said that she went upstairs to put her bag. The room card was taken out of your pocket and given to her. The two of you only got one room. Chun Guang continued to smile wickedly. Zhu Jifa gasped and started to panic. F***ck.
Keep this matter to yourself.
If Lu Xiaohong finds out, I'm dead meat. Chen Guang looked at his panicking face and felt pity for him. You're quite bold. You have Lu Xiaohong at home, and you still dare to keep a little secretary by your side. Aren't you afraid that something will happen? Zhu Jifa sighed. Of course I'm afraid. That's why I asked Hu Ling to wait on the road in the name of a business trip 2 days earlier. I only picked her up today. Are you tired of living? Chen Guang asked. Zhu Jifa nodded, then shook his head. Isn't it because I'm tired of living that I need someone to share my burden? Otherwise, I'm going to suffer from depression. Chen Guang understood his feelings. Lu Xiaohong was famous for being unreasonable. She had a bad temper and was a standard shrew. She looked rough and unlikable, but her father was the county's industry and commerce bureau chief. He just had to fall in love with Zhu Jifa, who was 3 years younger than him. Even though the poor CEO Zhu was disgusted, he still pinched his nose and married her a year ago. He thought that he could use her family's connections to get some benefits. Never did he expect that the one who married him would be a tigress. Zhu Jifa's life had been tough for the past year. He needed a gentle and considerate girl to barely save his collapsing life. All right, it's good that you know about this. If Lu Xiaohong comes to ask you about it, help me lay the groundwork. As Zhu Jifa spoke, he took out his wallet and shook out a stack of red notes. It looked to be about 2,000 to 3,000 yuan. He stuffed it into Chen Guang's hands. Here, take the hush money. Chen Guang slapped the money back. If it was him in the past, he would have accepted it without a second thought. But now, he really couldn't afford to lose face like this. He thought to himself that he might as well find an opportunity to show off his wealth in front of this guy. That way, this guy wouldn't think of him as a pauper. He would let this guy understand that a scholar who has been away for 3 days should be looked at in a new light. As the two of them were pushing and shoving each other, Hu Ling came back. What are you two doing? The two of them finally stopped. Zhu Jifa hurriedly explained, Nothing. Hu Ling had been with Zhu Jifa for a long time. When she saw his expression, how could she not understand what was going on? She blushed and pinched Zhu Jifa's hand under the table. Chen Guang looked at the two of them, being so lovey-dovey. How dare they show off their affection in front of me? I can call a girl to beat the crap out of you. Fortunately, the dishes on the table were gradually served. Zhu Jifa was the first to pick up his chopsticks. Let's eat. Go back to school early after you're done eating. I have a tough battle to fight tomorrow. Chen Guang picked up some food with his chopsticks. Even though this restaurant did not look grand, the food was quite authentic. Oh right, Hu Ling, do you know how to drive? Hu Ling was puzzled. Yes, why? Chen Guang was amused. All right then. You can drive the Rena back this time. I don't need it. Chapter 333. Zhu Jifa threw away his chopsticks and asked, Although I told you to stop driving, you're not used to not having a car, right? Just take it and drive. It's not a problem. Chen Guang chuckled. No, I'm going to buy my own car. The Rena doesn't feel good when it's running, and it's terrible when it accelerates. Screw you. Why are you complaining when you can drive it? I told you to come back and get a meeting, but you said you didn't want it. Zhu Jifa's phone rang as he was speaking. I'm going to take this call. In less than 2 minutes, he walked back with a bitter face, looking at the table full of dishes that had just been served regretfully. What's wrong? Chen Guang saw that his expression was not right. Zhu Jifa sighed. The battle is ahead of schedule. Forget it. Let's go somewhere else. The table full of dishes had not been touched. Everything happened so suddenly, so the three of them could only look at it regretfully before they left. It was a feast for their eyes. Because of that phone call, Zhu Jifa's mood suddenly became very complicated. Even when he was driving, he was a little distracted. If it wasn't for Chen Guang pulling the handbrake for him, this guy would have rear-ended someone. Left with no other choice, Chen Guang forcefully chased Zhu Jifa out of the driver's seat and took over the driver's seat. Chen Guang repeatedly expressed that he had been in the 5 capitals for half a year, and he's already an experienced driver. Only then did Zhu Jifa reluctantly give up his seat. However, as soon as he sat in the front passenger seat, his entire person was in the zone. His eyebrows were furrowed like a wet towel. "What's making you so worried? Tell me, and see if I can help you think of a way." Chen Guang asked him, but he didn't answer. Hu Lingang called another expensive restaurant in Wujing City's hailing pavilion to change the time of a private room and then mentioned it to Chen Guang. She said, "I originally had an appointment with someone at Hailing Pavilion to discuss something tomorrow, but they said they had another appointment tomorrow and asked me to change it to today. Originally, I planned to find out what that person likes and dislikes tomorrow morning, but now that I've been caught unprepared, Brother Fa is worried about whether or not we can settle the matter." Zhu Jifa, who was in front, finally said, "It's okay. I don't have time to ask about other people's preferences. At most, I'll just give them money. Everyone likes money. Don't worry about Qinguang later. Just focus on eating. You're going to graduate soon, so you should learn how to do business. Today is just the right time for you to see how I talk business." Qinguang nodded and thought to himself, "I don't know anything about business now, but I already have 200 million in my pocket, okay?" It was about 4 or 5 kilometers from the hotel chain to the hailing pavilion, but there was a bit of a traffic jam. The three of them drove for about 40 minutes before they arrived. Originally, Zhu Jifa had booked a private room for tomorrow. Now that it was changed to today, there was almost no space left. He had no choice but to add another 5,000 yuan to the private room fee. In the end, the three of them sat in the private room for an hour. It was almost 8 o'clock, and their stomachs were growling with hunger. Only then did the person they had been waiting for finally arrive, saying that he had already arrived downstairs. The wait was too boring, so Chen Guang had to force Zhu Jifa to talk about it. Only then did he know why he had come to the 5 capital painting. Recently, the business of his family's printing factory had been quite good. They had received a lot of orders, and the current production line was too busy. Therefore, Zhu Jifa planned to create a production line with new technology. It could also be considered as making the business bigger and bigger. Unfortunately, if he wanted to achieve everything in one step, the production line with new technology that he had his eyes on was not cheap. He had to prepare at least tens of millions of yuan in total. It was not enough to rely on the circulating funds of the factory alone, so he thought of taking a loan. The last time he had asked someone to send Chen Guang's parents to the 5 capital painting, he had actually gone there in advance to get a feel of the situation. After all, he knew that now that the country was collecting loans, it was not as easy for private enterprises to get loans as it used to be. Last week, he had finally found the way to Dongcheng Commercial Bank through an acquaintance. As the boss of the enterprise, he had hurriedly rushed over, planning to invite the president of the branch to have a meal together. At the dinner table, he would state the situation that needed to be shown, give the benefits that needed to be given, and settle the matter while he was at it. He had originally planned to make preparations with the acquaintance that he wanted to build a relationship with the next day, catered to their preferences, and prepared some valuable and high-class gifts. In the end, he did not expect the other party to do as he pleased, suddenly changing the date to today. At this time, the acquaintance could not come, and he had not prepared anything, so Zhu Jifa could only bite the bullet and do it himself. He did not know what this person had been doing before. This last-minute change of time, and he himself had arrived late, made Zhu Jifa, Chen Guang, and the other two extremely hungry. Chen Guang's face was sullen. He had not even entered the business world, and he had already suffered in the business world with Zhu Jifa. Chen Guang really could not hold it in. Isn't this person too unreasonable? It's fine if he changed the time, but he only arrived now. What did he say just now? 3 cars came? A dish in this lousy place would cost at least a few hundred. 3 cars for a dozen people, a meal would cost at least 10 to 20,000, and it would be even worse if they drank some wine. Does he think you're a sucker? Zhu Jifa sighed. Chen Guang, you've seen it, haven't you? Business is not easy. It's really not easy. Just like today, since he changed the time at the last minute, it means that he is actually not sincere. But I can only hope that he will make one last attempt. Don't you think so? Later on, you better restrain yourself and don't care about anything else. Just keep your head down and eat your food. Don't spoil my plans. Chen Guang saw his nervous look. Although he did not take it seriously, he did not directly refute him. Seeing that he was very concerned about this matter, he was not in a hurry to show off his money. At the same time, he could also learn how to deal with people in this so-called business world. At this moment, Zhu Jifa's phone rang. The other party said that they had already arrived at the entrance of Hailing Pavilion and asked him to go down and pick them up. Following that, Chen Guang finally saw the true difficulty of doing business. Zhu Jifa and Hu Ling eagerly went out to pick them up. He sat down obediently and waited for the food to be served. Just as Zhu Jifa said, Chen Guang only planned to eat this meal with his stomach and ears. He only wanted to listen and eat and did not care about anything else. In the end, Hu Ling came in with a red face. The atmosphere was a little off. Chen Guang wanted to ask what was wrong, but a group of people followed behind a fat man came in. Before the words left his mouth, he swallowed them first. Zhu Jifa was the last one. He looked like he was forcing a smile. There was some anger between his eyebrows, but he suppressed it. When the people in front of him turned around and greeted him, his face instantly turned into a humble and respectful smile. After entering the door and sitting down, Zhu Jifa first mentioned that Chen Guang was his younger brother. The fat man was President Ma of Dongcheng Commercial Bank's Chaosian County branch. President Ma was not interested in Chen Guang at all. He did not even greet Chen Guang. He only waved his hand and signaled the 10 people behind him to sit down. Then he sat down on the main seat. Zhu Jifa and Hu Ling actually rushed to Chen Guang's side. Chen Guang felt that the atmosphere was not right. Chapter 334. All of a sudden, there were so many people, and they seemed to be President Ma's subordinates. Zhu Jifa didn't even have the chance to open his mouth on the table. Logically speaking, if he really wanted to talk, it wasn't impossible with so many people. President Ma just needed to give a signal, and Zhu Jifa would immediately follow him outside to talk. However, after the dishes were served, President Ma and his group were very lively. On the contrary, Zhu Jifa, who was the host today, couldn't integrate into the atmosphere of this group of people. This feeling was very strange. Zhu Jifa clearly wanted to talk to President Ma, so he booked a private room in this expensive Hailing Pavilion. In the end, President Ma didn't stand on ceremony. He pulled out a bunch of his subordinates, and the table became a lively gathering of his trusted subordinates. Zhu Jifa didn't even have the chance to talk. Zhu Jifa couldn't integrate, and President Ma didn't have the mood to care about his emotions. He sent a young man to sit beside Zhu Jifa and pull him to drink. Zhu Jifa stood up to propose a toast, so the other party impatiently squeezed out a smile that was not a smile. It could be said that he had gone overboard. On the other hand, Zhu Jifa drank one cup after another. Less than 5 minutes into the meal, Chen Guang understood that there were some things that couldn't be said. After all, Brother Fa had been treated as a spendthrift today. This meal for more than 10 people, and they drank cup after cup of Maotai, at least 30 to 40,000 yuan was gone. The other party's large group chatted incessantly. Zhu Jifa, Hu Ling, and Chen Guang, who were originally the hosts, became completely dispensable on the scene. They just needed to pay, and their faces were full of awkwardness. Chen Guang had probably heard of similar situations. Nowadays, the country was calling for clean government and simplicity. Eating and drinking at public expense couldn't be messed around. However, this meal had to be eaten, and he couldn't pay for it himself. What should he do? When he was greedy, or when he wanted to host some big receptions, he would find some local business bosses who had something to ask of him. They said that they would introduce you to them and help you pull some strings. In fact, they just wanted you to bring a bag of money. But if someone else were to do this, they would at least be meeting a big shot. If they let you fork out the money, it would really be a success. President Ma's table manners were exceptionally ugly. You're a leader who's treating your subordinate to a meal, yet you're tricking him into paying for it. Yet, you're not showing any sincerity or attitude when discussing matters. What the hell is this? He didn't even give them any face. Zhu Jifa poured glass after glass of wine into the young man's mouth. The young man seemed to be a wine jar. He was also suffering, but he still forced a smile. Chen Guang was furious. He had finally experienced the difficulties of this business today. Only Zhu Jifa could endure it. If it were him, he would definitely not be able to endure it. Although he was unhappy, he was not the one in charge today. Zhu Jifa could still hold it in, and Chen Guang naturally could not stand up for him, nor was he in a position to do so. Finding an opportunity, Chen Guang turned his head and asked Hu Ling next to him. You didn't look right when I came in. What's wrong? Hu Ling shook her head in a slightly flustered manner. No, nothing. Chen Guang, you're good. Don't worry about this. Chen Guang raised his eyebrows. Did that damn fatty take advantage of you? Hu Ling's face stiffened. She looked at Chen Guang again and thought about the relationship between the two brothers. Finally, she leaned over to Chen Guang's ear and whispered, It's okay. Your brother has a favor to ask now. I can bear with this little loss. It's nothing if I can get it done. What's wrong? Chen Guang suppressed his anger. Hu Ling whispered, When I first came up, President Ma slapped my butt. Don't do anything rash. This scumbag. Chen Guang's face instantly darkened. Hu Ling was shocked by him and quickly pressed down on his leg. Don't be rash. Don't cause trouble for your brother. I've already endured it. Don't ask about this. Just eat your food. After taking a few deep breaths, Chen Guang grinned at President Ma, who was looking at him curiously. He then turned his face to Hu Ling and said with a fake smile, Fine. It's your business anyway. Anyway, I can't be a businessman. I'm not learning. He really couldn't do it. If doing business required him to suffer like this, he really couldn't do it. Even though Zhu Jifa was dealing with a small printing factory and only wanted to borrow tens of thousands of yuan, he was only facing the president of a county-level branch of a commercial bank. With 200 million yuan in his hands, he might not need to be afraid of someone like President Ma when he entered the business world. However, there would definitely be bigger people waiting for him to curry favor with them. I can't do this business. Anyway, I can't stand this. Chen Guang fiercely picked up a piece of Dongpa pork knuckle and stuffed it into his mouth. This time, he didn't even want to wear his ears. After 3 rounds of drinking, Zhu Jifa finally couldn't hold it in anymore. At this moment, President Ma seemed to have drunk enough. He got up and said that he needed to go to the toilet. Zhu Jifa quickly followed him, thinking that this was an opportunity for him to talk. Seeing him like this, Chen Guang's heart was pounding. It was hard to be a human being, but it was even harder to be a businessman. He understood Zhu Jifa's character. Zhu Jifa was a hot-tempered person like him in the past, but now he had become like this. Perhaps he really needed money badly. It was not easy to find a relationship with President Ma. Even if the situation looked so bad now, he refused to give up this opportunity easily. After a while, the two of them returned. President Ma walked unsteadily in front while Zhu Jifa looked helpless behind the door. President Ma, can we talk about this again? President Ma, who was pushing the door open, suddenly stopped in his tracks. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Zhu Jifa coldly. Xiao Zhu, we can talk about this later. Let's talk about it another day. Everyone is having a good time today, so let's not talk about business. Zhu Jifa's face stiffened. He was already cursing in his heart. I was only inviting you alone, but you brought more than 10 people and cost me tens of thousands. Now you are telling me that we are not going to talk about business? Why did I invite you here if we are not going to talk about business? But he forced a smile on his face. That's right. Eat well and drink well. Let's talk about it another day. When the two of them entered, everyone on the table stopped their cups and looked at them. Chen Guang had also heard their conversation and wanted to slam the table as well. However, when he saw that Zhu Jifa had endured it, he felt that even if he had to endure it, he would continue to endure it. The two of them finally sat down. President Ma, who said he didn't want to talk about business, finally spoke again. He didn't try to hide anything. He said directly, Xiao Zhu, I actually understand your situation very well. But the printing factory is not a new industry. It is not wrong to say that it is a sunset industry. Now, the country does not have any plans to support it. In the first half of this year, our branch's business is also doing well. The loan quota is almost used up. This matter of yours is difficult to handle. She didn't expect him to say it out loud in front of so many people. His meaning was obvious. I want to eat and drink for free. What can you do about it? Chapter 335. Zhu Jifa panicked and stood up. President Ma, this. President Ma impatiently pressed his hand down. Xiao Zhu, don't be anxious. I'll think of something later. Everything will go according to the proper procedures. As long as your company meets the lending standards, it's not impossible to talk about it. All right, didn't I just say that we shouldn't talk about business at the table? Let's eat first. What he meant was that this meal was not enough, and he had to continue eating another day. Zhu Jifa was furious, but President Ma was his last hope. It was all his fault. He wanted to eat until he was fat, so he rushed out a lot of orders. Now, he could not get a loan, could not get a new line, and could not complete it on time. If he lost money, he might even go bankrupt. If he took a step back and got a set of outdated and cheap equipment, it would cost at least a few million. On the other hand, it would be obsolete sooner or later. It would be a waste of money, and the production task might not be completed on time. Even if this matter could be settled through the proper procedures, it would still be dragged on by this man with the surname Ma. After wasting a few months, the factory would still be finished. Now, he really could not do anything about this man with the surname Ma. There was no other way. After sitting down again, the young man next to Zhu Jifa continued to pull him to drink. This time, the young man was finally willing to reveal his identity. He moved closer to Zhu Jifa and whispered. It turned out that this guy was President Ma's nephew. He gestured for Zhu Jifa to go outside to talk with him. Zhu Jifa had been ignored for the whole meal. Seeing that he finally had a chance to talk, he hurriedly followed. Even if he was just a nephew sent by President Ma, it was convenient for him to talk about things that were not convenient for outsiders to hear. Chen Guang first looked at the fat President Ma, who was still happily bragging. He then looked at Zhu Jifa, who was excitedly following him out. Chen Guang frowned slightly. It was already such a lousy situation. That man with the surname Ma obviously did not want to do anything. Zhu Jifa was too anxious and blinded by lard. Maybe this guy asked Zhu Jifa to go out to take advantage of his anxiousness to ruthlessly cut him off first. Chen Guang said to Hu Ling that he was going to the toilet too, and followed them out. He felt that he had learned Zhu Jifa's way of doing business. It was embarrassing for him to kneel down and beg others to do business. Anyway, he couldn't do it. Wasn't it just 10 million? I have 183 million in my UBS account that I have nowhere to spend. How could he watch Zhu Jifa, who wasn't even his biological brother, suffer like this? Even if touching this money would step on Liuli's tail, he couldn't ignore it. Although Liuli was rude and unreasonable, she still had to be reasonable. When Chen Guang followed Zhu Jifa outside, he wasn't in a rush to argue with Zhu Jifa. Instead, he hid in a corner and listened to what the two had to say. Although it would feel good to flip the table in front of everyone, there's no need to offend them. Chen Guang was someone who had no desires, but he wasn't representing himself at this moment. Since he was sitting here with Zhu Jifa, he was also representing his factory. Two people's whispers came from the other corner of the wall. As expected, that was what that guy was planning. The young man's tone indicated that the matter was difficult, but not impossible. Mr. Zhu, it's not that my uncle doesn't want to help you, but the current national policy is the same. It's not easy. Zhu Jifa nodded bitterly. I know it's not easy, so I asked Brother Deng to contact President Ma. I don't dare to say anything else, but although the printing factory is a sunset industry, I have a lot of orders. As long as I can get a loan, I promise I won't let the loan go bad. The young man moved his face closer. Mr. Zhu, I understand what you're saying, but my uncle has his difficulties too. Zhu Jifa grunted in response. He was extremely impatient, but he also understood why bank manager Ma kept his nephew by his side. If bank manager Ma has any difficulties, why don't you tell me? As long as I, Zhu Jifa, can help, I won't hesitate. The young man smiled and suddenly said mysteriously, my uncle is quite fond of jade artifacts. After saying that, he did not say anything else. Zhu Jifa was in a dilemma. Difficulties my *SS. I thought you're good at it, but you're still the same. It was not popular to give money directly. After all, money, no matter if it was transferred to an account or changed into cash and hidden somewhere, would eventually be exposed. Jade, calligraphy, and paintings were stylish and valuable and could be exchanged for cash. Actually, Zhu Jifa would rather the other party ask for money. Jade was more troublesome. No matter how much money he asked for, it would not be more than 100,000. But when it came to Jade, how could he take out anything less than 100,000? The other party had already said that he liked Jade, so his family must have some treasures. If the quality of the gift was too low, not only would it not please the other party, but it would also offend the other party. The value of the gift could only be figured out by the person asking for help. To be on the safe side, the value had to be estimated high, and the person would rather give more than less. But with Zhu Jifa's net worth, he could still afford tens of thousands. If it exceeded 100,000, it would be a serious problem. Even a factory worth 200,000 would not be able to operate smoothly. Obviously, it was not the first time the young man had done this on behalf of President Ma. He turned around and walked into the private room. Turning the corner, the young man saw Chen Guang, who had the same ugly expression. The young man could guess Chen Guang's mood at the moment. He snorted arrogantly and ignored Chen Guang. Zhu Jifa frowned and turned around. He saw Chen Guang's livid face and squeezed out a smile. He patted him on the shoulder and said softly, "I didn't expect it to be so difficult. It's embarrassing. Don't be impulsive and ruin things. If you're really angry, you can go back first. Don't worry, this little setback won't defeat me." Snorting through his nose, Chen Guang continued, "Who the hell are these people? Don't tell me you're really going to give that Ma guy hundreds of thousands of jade? Can't you tell? They don't have the attitude to help at all, okay?" Zhu Jifa shook his head. "They don't want to help because I didn't do my job well. Don't worry, it can be done." ****. Was there a need to be so humble to please this kind of thing that ate people without spitting out the bones? Aren't you just short of money? How big of a deal is it? "I have 10 million, Chen Guang finally said. But Zhu Jifa did not believe him at all. "Don't tease me. Okay, if you're angry, don't go in to eat. Walk around outside first. Today's meal is like this. It's all because of this mess. I really have money." Seeing that he did not believe him, Chen Guang said anxiously. Zhu Jifa almost laughed. "Okay, I know you're trying to comfort me because you pity me, but this is nothing. How can it be worse than me being bullied by Lu Xiaoheng? There are hundreds of people in the factory who depend on me to make a living. This money is really important. If I mess it up, it's all over. If your family collapses, I can't collapse. It's tough, but I can take it. If everything collapses, who can take it if the old man gets sick in the future? You don't know how upset I was when I found out your dad wanted to sell the house. Don't worry, watch me. Take care of him." With that, Zhu Jifa turned and walked into the private room. Chen Guang was so angry that his head was about to explode. Just as he was about to take out his UBS black card to teach this ignorant grandson a lesson, he had already closed the private room door. His meaning was obvious. "I'll take the brunt of this, and you can stay in your ivory tower and be a university student." Chapter 336. Chen Guang was depressed for a while, thinking to himself, "Anyway, this meal is destined to be free. If he wants to embarrass himself, then let him embarrass himself first. When this group of grandsons surnamed Ma eat and drink enough and leave, then I will slap his face with the UBS black card. Let's see if this guy still thinks of me as a kid who hasn't graduated. Shameful. A racing god, a rich man of 200 million, was actually looked down upon by a good brother who grew up wearing the same underwear. You wait for me." Chen Guang really wanted to know when he really slapped 10 million in Zhu Jifa's face, what kind of expression this silly guy who always regarded him as a big brother would have. "I'll let you be so poor." Just as he was picturing that scene in his mind, his cell phone rang, and it turned out to be a call from Zhong Bai. Picking up the phone, Chen Guang was in a slightly irritable mood and asked hurriedly, "What's the matter?" On the other side of the phone, Zhongbai still didn't know that Guang had become a powder keg at this time and only said cheerfully, "Sister Lu Fei just came back from abroad and asked me to gather everyone together. I think, Brother Guang, you should have finished your exam, right? Why don't you come over when you have time? Sister Lu Fei said that you want to learn business, so let's talk together?" If it was another time, Guang would really be interested in learning business with this group of people. After all, he had a deep understanding of Lu Fei's ability after chatting in Hong Kong last time. A person who could lose 500 million in a year was definitely very experienced.
But today was really not the time.
He was annoyed with Zhu Jifa's business methods, so how could he have the mood to learn? He was still waiting for Zhu Jifa to finish his work and slap 10 million in his face. "Not today, you guys are busy. I have something to do in the city." Guang refused. Zhongbai was about to speak, but Lu Fei grabbed his cell phone. "Enough, Zhongbai. This silly guy can't even call a person. Guang, where are you these days? Let's come to find you. Hospital?" For some reason, Guang felt his hands itch when he heard Lu Fei's voice. He would never admit that he harbored evil intentions, but during those days in Xiangjiang, he had been addicted to touching Lu Fei's body. Now that he suddenly heard this girl's voice after more than 10 days, why did his hands vaguely have an illusion, as if he had grabbed something again? On the other side, Zhongbai and the others were already making a ruckus, vaguely shouting something. "Eat him. Sister Lu Fei, go. Rise. All of you shut up. There's nothing going on between me and Guang. Don't spout nonsense." Luffy flew into a rage, and the other side fell silent. Guang smiled when he heard this. Lu Fei was also a tough woman. It seemed that Zhongbai's request for him to go to their gathering to talk about business was a lie. Lu Fei really wanted to see him. She must have been the one who suggested it. It was just that she was shy at first, so she asked Zhongbai to call her. He shook his head. There was no other way. As the invincible underground racing god, in the eyes of those who liked racing, he was so handsome that people could not extricate themselves. Lu Fei was also a weirdo. She was so rich and seemed to be quite good at doing business. She was such a mature and decent person, but why did she like racing? But this was also good. Or else how could he take advantage of her? If he did not get to know this group of people, he would still be running the internet bitterly. He also did not have the money to treat his mother's illness. How could he be like now, with 200 million in his hands ready to act cool at any time? He really underestimated himself. It was hard to say about other things, but what he had done in Xiangjiang in the past 5 days was still a legend in the entire world's underground racing world. If he was willing to reveal his true identity as the racing god, not to mention Lu Fei, there would be at least a dozen foreign girls of similar status waiting to throw themselves into his arms. However, they might not have Lu Fei's natural and beautiful temperament. Guang, say something? Now that you don't race, you don't even want to see us? This is so sad. Lu Fei urged again. I don't mean that, really. I'm in Hailing Pavilion now. I have something to do, and can't leave. How about you go about your business first? When I'm done, I'll come to see you later. Oh, what a coincidence. We're nearby. Wait for us for a few minutes. What's wrong? You got rich and went to Hailing Pavilion to be corrupt? That restaurant is boring. I'll take you to eat better private dishes another day. Wait for us. After asking for the name of Guang's private room, Lu Fei hung up the phone with a snap. She was burning with anxiety. Guang did not have time to explain that he followed others to be a foil. He thought to himself, forget it, come if you want. At that time, I'll let this group of people meet Zhu Jifa and let them throw out the stack of business cards that scared Dong Tao. Ha ha ha, with Zhu Jifa's character, who wants to kneel on the spot. Guang patted his head and thought of this. He could not help but start to giggle. Thinking about how Zhu Jifa was still bitterly sucking up to that guy with the surname Ma, Guang wanted to know how much he would regret it later. The real sugar daddy is right in front of you. It's me, the big brother that you treat as a little kid. If Guang completely relied on his own temper, whoever dared to treat him like a fool like President Ma, he would definitely be slapped in the face. Who the hell dilly-dallying with you? Now that he knew that reinforcements would arrive soon, the unhappiness in Qinguang's heart quickly dissipated. After thinking about it, he decided to return to the private room and sit down. He had not eaten his fill yet. Therefore, he pushed the door open and went in. This time, he was determined to ignore everything and plan to eat in silence. In the end, Qinguang found that his seat was occupied by someone else. It was none other than the damn fatty, President Ma. Zhu Jifa was already 70 to 80% drunk by President Ma's nephew. He was a little delirious. President Ma's nephew was obviously experienced. He was a fighter in the drinking arena. When Qinguang turned his head to look, he suddenly felt blood rushing to his head. CKU. Isn't it enough for you to take advantage of me? Swindling, taking benefits without doing anything. Isn't it enough to be an ingrate? You even want to touch my brother's woman. You're rebelling. At this moment, President Ma's face was red. He seemed to be half drunk as well. He was sitting in Qinguang's original seat with one hand holding Hu Ling's shoulder. Hu Ling looked embarrassed. She struggled with all her might, but how could her strength compare to the big fatty, President Ma? She did not dare to really flip the table for President Ma. The one with the surname Ma held Hu Ling's shoulder with one hand and slammed the table with the other. Xiao Zhu is really lucky. This factory isn't doing well, but it's really good at picking people. Xiao Hu looks cute and pretty. TSK. Look at how cute and helpless she is. Good, very good. Xiao Zhu, let me put it this way. Xiao Hu and I hit it off the moment we met. I might not be able to negotiate with you, but I can negotiate with Xiao Hu. Do you understand? Zhu Jifa also realized that the situation was not right, but he was even drunker than President Ma. He could not even speak fluently. He held his head and shook his head. No, not good, President Ma smiled. There's nothing bad about it. It's quite good. Isn't that why you brought Xiao Hu here? I understand. Let's not beat around the bush in front of an honest person. As long as I discuss this with Xiao Hu, I will definitely settle it for you. How about it? Zhu Jifa was still shaking his head. No way. On the other side, President Ma's nephew suddenly stuffed a glass of wine into Zhu Jifa's hand and clinked glasses with him. Bottoms up. Zhu Jifa was drunk. He picked up the glass and drank. Before he even drank half a glass of wine, he slumped on the table and was completely drunk. Chapter 337. On the other side, when President Ma saw that Zhu Jifa had finally collapsed, he turned his head and laughed at Hu Ling. His breath reeked of alcohol, and he became even more unscrupulous. This grandson smiled and moved his face closer to Hu Ling. He held a cup in his hand and shoved it into Hu Ling's mouth. He said, "Little Hu, you're little Zhu's right-hand man. Come, little Hu, drink this cup. When you're done drinking, we'll have a good chat. After we chat, things will be easier." Following President Ma's actions, everyone at the table roared with laughter. Perhaps everyone was drunk, or perhaps President Ma often brought his confidants to do this kind of thing. Following President Ma's actions, everyone at the table roared with laughter. Perhaps everyone was drunk, or perhaps President Ma often brought his confidants to do this kind of thing. For a moment, the large private room was filled with the smell of demons dancing in a frenzy. Hu Ling had never encountered this kind of situation before, so she stiffened her neck and dodged to the side. President Ma suddenly became annoyed and slammed the cup on the table. The expensive Mount Ice splashed out like water, splashing all over Hu Ling's body. "I'm giving you face, but you don't want it. I'll say it here. If you accompany me to drink and chat to your heart's content today, we can talk about the loan, but if you insist on putting on airs like this, then don't blame me. I, Ma Sunlin, at least have some face in the 5 capital financial circle. Your President Zhu can forget about getting a single cent from our system in the future." Hu Ling's face turned pale in fear. She looked at Zhu Jifa for help, but he was already lying on the table and snoring loudly. This sounds like a long time, but from the time Qinguang opened the door to the time he walked behind President Ma, it was only a dozen seconds. The raging anger rushed from his heels to the top of his head. He could see through the man with the surname Ma at a glance. This B***star didn't want to do anything for Zhu Jifa at all. Not only did he not want to do anything, but he also deliberately got Zhu Jifa drunk and went crazy with the help of the alcohol. He wanted to eat Hu Ling clean. If he wasn't here today, perhaps old Zhu would really have a big fall this time.
Don't look at how cowardly he was right now.
If Hu Ling really suffered a loss, he really was the kind of person who dared to go in with a white knife and come out with a red one. Fine, since I'm here today, I'll help him stab the knife in first. This group of crazed fellows did not notice that Chen Guang had gradually walked behind Ma Sunlin. Hu Ling was so scared by Ma Sunlin that she almost cried. Her mind was blank, and she didn't know what to do. If she had waited until tomorrow to talk to Brother Deng and understand President Ma's character, she would not even appear at this table. Even if Ma Sunlin really wanted to give a woman to Ma Sunlin, it would not be her. Ma Sunlin could just spend money to hire a PR person. She really liked Zhu Jifa. She didn't want to see Zhu Jifa miss the opportunity and cause the factory to collapse. She had a weak personality and was worried that her resistance would completely offend Ma Sunlin. Right now, she was in a dilemma. Seeing that he had successfully subdued her, Ma Sunlin grinned. That's right. Little Hu, your body is really... As he spoke, he really reached out his hand towards Hu Ling's chest. Hu Ling desperately tried to push his hand away, but the president once again put on a straight face. Xiao Hu, you better think it through. Hu Ling did not dare to move. Ma Sunlin's demonic claws were getting closer and closer. The other people sitting at the table were also sizing up the two of them with mocking gazes. Clearly, this wasn't the first time Ma Sunlin had done this in front of this group of people. However, he did not succeed in the end because Chen Guang grabbed his hair from behind and pulled it back. F***CKU, you piece of SH**T. I've seen a lot of SH**TTY people, but I've never seen someone as F***King SH**T2I as you. Chen Guang angrily attacked. He did not think about controlling his strength at all. He used all his strength on Ma Sunlin's hair and instantly flipped this fat man who weighed at least 180 kilograms to the ground. A bunch of his hair was pulled out. Ma Sunlin screamed and fell on his back. The back of his head hit the hard floor tiles, and he held his head and howled. Chen Guang held Hu Ling's shoulder, who was completely shocked by the sudden turn of events. He did not want her to fall down because of Ma Sunlin. Hu Ling, it's not appropriate for me to call you sister-in-law, but I can't stand it anymore. Brother Fa is drunk, so I'm the only one who can handle this. As Chen Guang spoke, he kicked Ma Sunlin's abdomen, who was slowly crawling up, causing the fatty to cry out before he hugged his abdomen and squatted down. Everything happened too fast. The people that Ma Sunlin brought with him did not understand what was going on. Ma Sunlin's nephew moved the fastest. He stood up from his chair and rushed towards Chen Guang with a wine bottle in his hand. He cursed, "Mother f***, do you want to die? Why are you guys standing there like idiots? Do it. Kill this f***. Chen Guang raised his hand and grabbed the wine bottle that Ma Sunlin's nephew knocked over. With a little force, he snatched it back into his own hand. With a shake of his hand, the wine bottle hit the head of the young man who was jumping up the most. For a moment, glass shards flew everywhere. Ma Sunlin's nephew held his head and screamed as he retreated. Blood began to flow from the gaps of his fingers. Either don't make a move, or you have to be ruthless. This was Chen Guang's life principle. There were more than 10 people on the other side. If he was alone, he would not be afraid of them at all. But now there was a drunk Zhu Jifa and a powerless Hu Ling. Therefore, from the beginning he had to subdue this group of grandchildren to prevent the other two from being implicated. His crazy action of killing the chicken to warn the monkey really scared the other 10 people silly. It was not that he had never seen people fight, but there were not many people who fought in such a ruthless way. There were even fewer people who broke the other person's head without any hesitation. Chen Guang snorted. Holding the half bottle, he walked next to Ma Sunlin, who was trembling as he stood up. Without any nonsense, he grabbed Ma Sunlin's hair and gestured the half bottle in front of Ma Sunlin's face. It was funny. A lot of the hair on this guy's head fell off after he grabbed it just now. Now it was almost bald, which was very funny. This time, the other people who were a little tempted to make a move were all dumbfounded. If Chen Guang really stabbed the bottle into Ma Senlin's neck, the consequences would be unimaginable. You don't mess around. Ma Senlin endured the pain in his stomach and stepped back little by little until his back was completely pressed against the wall. He was sweating profusely. If you have something to say, let's talk it out. I was just joking with Xiao Hu. I didn't really mean that. Little brother, please calm down. Ma Senlin was afraid. He was less than 50 years old, and he still had a lot of years to enjoy. He couldn't die here today. Of course, although he was begging for mercy, in his heart, he already hated Zhu Jifa and brother Deng, who introduced him to him. Where did you find such a bastard? You want to kill someone just because of a disagreement. You don't look like you are here to talk at all. When I go back, don't even think about getting a penny from the Wujing City bank system. Not only that, I will send this bastard to prison and let him stay in prison for a long time. Chapter 338. Chen Guang grinned. How could he not understand what Ma Senlin was thinking? He directly exposed him. President Ma, you say that you're convinced, but your eyes seem to have a lot of ideas. Chen Guang threw the bottle away and let it shatter on the floor. His left hand held onto Ma Senlin's collar with one hand, and the strength of one hand was enough to lift Ma Senlin up completely. After mastering the Qilin arm, his strength, which was already greater than an ordinary person's, had increased by another 50%. The specific manifestation of this was that he was able to lift up such a large fatty with one hand with this seemingly weak arm. The private room was silent for a moment. Everyone was so scared that they sucked in a breath of cold air. This was a troublesome matter. At this moment, Hu Ling pounced on Chen Guang from behind and pulled him. Chen Guang, put him down. Quickly put him down. Chen Guang struggled for a moment and pushed Hu Ling away with his right hand. Sister, Hu Ling, don't worry. I know what you're nervous about. Isn't it just a loan of 10 million? It's not a big deal. It's such a small amount of money. Is there a need to humble yourself and beg others? I've been holding it in because I really wanted to learn something with my ears. Now it seems that it's more practical to talk with my fists. Hu Ling was so anxious that she pulled Zhu Jifa again. She wanted to wake him up so that Zhu Jifa could stop Chen Guang. Seeing Hu Ling in tears, Chen Guang rolled his eyes. She was just afraid that the loan would be completely ruined. What's there to be afraid of? Ma Senlin spoke again. He felt that he couldn't breathe properly after being lifted up in the air and strangled by the collar. Ma Senlin said in a hoarse voice, Bro, put me down. This matter can be discussed. It can be discussed. Just follow the proper procedures. It can be done. Chen Guang loosened his grip. This fatty finally fell and sat on the floor. All right, since we've already gotten to this point, you don't have to pretend to be kind to me anymore. I know what you're thinking in your heart. It's nothing more than to kill me and Brother Fa when we get back. It's nothing more than to sue me for intentionally injuring someone and putting me in jail. I know what you're doing. I've seen people like you a few times. Chen Guang was quite straightforward and directly exposed Ma Senlin's thoughts. Ma Senlin shook his head. No, I definitely don't have such thoughts. I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. Shrugging his shoulders, Chen Guang took out his UBS black card and shook it in his hand. I've already said that 10 million yen isn't a problem. Brother Fa thought that I was joking, and Hu Ling, you didn't believe me either. But it's really not a big deal. Hu Ling was still a little confused, but Ma Senlin was an insider. He recognized the uniqueness of the card in Chen Guang's hand at a glance. Not to mention the number of people who could make this card, they could indeed take out 10 million. Seeing Hu Ling's blank face, Chen Guang felt a slight pain in his balls. Big sister, why don't you know this? You made me fail to show off. He simply pulled Ma Senlin over. President Ma, help me explain this card to Sister Hu Ling. Ma Senlin was almost disgusted by Chen Guang's appearance as a nouveau riche. However, this nouveau riche was too good at fighting. A wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. Ma Senlin could only bite the bullet and explain to Hu Ling. As he explained, he stared at his nephew, who was squatting in the corner. Thank God, the blood on the kid's forehead had stopped. When Chen Guang knocked the kid's head, although he was angry, his action was too fast and too ruthless. The bottle only broke on the kid's forehead and then retracted. It didn't really cut the kid's forehead. Otherwise, someone would really die today. Hu Ling didn't understand, but after listening to Ma Senlin's shaky explanation, she understood. Zhu Jifa's little brother, Chen Guang, was really awesome now. Brother, since there's no need for a loan, are we just going to let this matter go? Then can we leave first? My nephew's injuries are quite serious. We have to go to the hospital as soon as possible. Ma Senlin said as he moved towards the door of the private room. Chen Guang sneered. Amazing, really amazing. I've always heard that some people in this world can hide their thoughts in their hearts, and no one can see through them. President Ma, you've really broadened my horizons. I admire you very much. Ma Senlin awkwardly forced a smile. I don't really understand what you mean, brother. I really admire your acting skills of adapting to the circumstances. But do you think I don't know what you're thinking? Kid, why are you being so arrogant? In this world, it's not about having a strong fist. I've seen a sea of rich people. Now that the situation is stronger than you, you'll regret it later if I let you be cocky, right? As Chen Guang spoke, he pressed forward again and looked at Ma Senlin aggressively. Ma Senlin's eyes flashed. No. Actually, Chen Guang didn't guess wrong. Although UBS Black Card users had some status, his card wasn't the scariest 10 billion gold card of UBS. His status in the country was basically the same level as an American Express Black Card. The lowest standard was China Merchants Bank. As long as a person's personal assets reached 20 million, they could grit their teeth and get it. Ma Senlin was the president of a county branch of Dongcheng Commercial Bank, and he was also the manager of a large industrial county. He usually greeted the big entrepreneurs in the county, and a UBS Black Card couldn't scare him off. Now that he was acting so cowardly, it was purely because Chen Guang's methods were too ruthless, to the point that he didn't dare to bear the consequences of angering Chen Guang on the spot. But after that, his revenge wouldn't be so easy. What Ma Senlin was thinking was, how much you made me suffer today, how much face I've lost, I'll definitely pay you back 10 times, 100 times the next day. He didn't expect that the person in front of him was not only ruthless in his attacks, but also ruthless in his judgment of others. He couldn't hide his little schemes anymore. So, since I've already offended you to this extent, and the grudge has already been established, even if I let you go now, you'll still come looking for trouble later. With someone like you, it's impossible not to kill me. So, there's no need to worry about too much debt. Now, I have to leave you with a deeper memory. Anyway, isn't it a fight to the death? I quite like this. It was rare for Chen Guang to be so unforgiving. It was because Ma Senlin's idea of hitting on Hu Ling had touched his reverse scale. I treat Zhu Jifa as my own brother, and Hu Ling can be considered as half a sister-in-law. King came with such a big tone today. We didn't have a good meal, so we came here anxiously. We waited bitterly for you for an hour, and then King treated us like fools. King got my brother drunk, and you even have designs on my sister-in-law. If I don't leave some flowers for you, the old man's thoughts won't be smooth. What are you doing? Ma Senlin heard that Chen Guang's tone was getting more and more sinister, and he gradually felt that something was wrong. At this time, one of his men finally saw that the situation was not good and wanted to rush out of the private room, but Chen Guang had already blocked in front of him like lightning. He backhanded the man's face, and the man spun around and fell down. This is the last warning. Before I let you go, whoever dares to move will really die. As soon as he said that, the atmosphere in the private room that had just eased up was instantly frozen again. Do you think I'm too much? Don't you want to forgive me? That's right, I'm this kind of person. You're very unlucky to have fallen into my hands. President Ma, I'll give you 2 choices. Kneel down and slap your own face with whichever hand you used to take advantage of Sister Hu Ling just now. Keep slapping until your face is swollen. Chen Guang grinned, and his words were indescribably cold. Everyone had a reverse scale that couldn't be touched. Ma Sunlin had stepped on his reverse scale today. Chapter 339. Don't go too far. Ma Sunlin was originally full of anger. He was waiting to escape from here before looking for an opportunity to retaliate. He didn't expect this brat to become more and more ruthless. He didn't soften his attitude because of his concession. Hearing this, Chen Guang grinned and slowly put his hand on his neck. The fat on this fat guy's neck was a little disgusting. Didn't you go too far just now? Since you didn't have the intention of lending from the beginning, you shouldn't have come to this meal, let alone touch my sister-in-law. Hu Ling looked at Chen Guang with a complicated expression. She really didn't expect Zhu Jifa's little brother to be so violent. If it was before, she could still persuade him, but now she knew that although this guy looked young, he was actually very rich. She also thought that such a big shot might have his own plans. She was just Zhu Jifa's secretary, so she really couldn't figure out the thoughts of these high-ranking people. On the other side, Chen Guang spoke again. Didn't I just say that there are two choices? The first is that you kneel down and slap yourself in the face. The second choice is that I break your dishonest hand. It seems that you chose the second one. As he spoke, Chen Guang let go of his neck and grabbed Ma Senlin's left arm with his right hand. His 5 fingers gradually increased the strength. Feeling the pain from his arm getting more and more intense, Ma Senlin's pupils shrank. He finally knew that this person wasn't joking. Madman. A complete madman.
No, he saw through my plan.
He knew that, even if he let me go, I wouldn't give up easily. ****. What the hell should I do now? With a plop, this arrogant Mr. President finally knelt down. Loud slaps sounded in the private room one after another. Chen Guang stood by the side with his hands crossed and looked at this person coldly. Ma Sunlin thought it through. Compared to breaking his hand, it was easier to slap his face swollen. Since he couldn't escape today, he would grit his teeth and accept this loss. To be able to climb through the system to where he was now, he was indeed a person who knew how to judge the situation. Therefore, he hit very hard, trying to beat his face up as fast as possible. He just wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. Hu Ling didn't expect that the meal would end up like this. During this time, the Hailing Pavilion's waitress came in once, but she was frightened by the strange atmosphere in the private room. The fat man kneeling on the ground and constantly slapping himself made her think that this was a scene of a gangster boss punishing his underlings. She shrank her neck and ran away, ignoring the pleading eyes of Ma Senlin's subordinates. Ma Senlin was originally very fat, and it was not easy to beat him until he looked swollen, but he finally did it. It took him a whole 5 minutes, and the inside of his mouth was almost rotten. Bro, are you done? I'm convinced, I'm really convinced. Half of Ma Senlin's face was swollen, and his left eye could hardly open. He raised his head and looked at Chen Guang, and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Chen Guang waved his hand impatiently. That's about it. If you want to get out, then get out. If you want to call the police, then call the police. But I advise you not to find people from the underworld to cause trouble for me. That will really get you killed. Ma Senlin responded vaguely. I don't dare, I absolutely don't dare. Then he decisively got up and planned to go outside. Before he had time to open the door, the private room's door was suddenly opened again. It was Lu Fei who walked in first. Lu Fei was very quick-witted. The moment she entered the door, she felt that the atmosphere was not right. She looked at Ma Senlin, whose face was swollen like a bun, and another group of bank staff who were shrinking their necks and planning to run away. Then she looked at Chen Guang, who had not had time to retract his pretentious expression. She instantly understood. You didn't get what you wanted, so you beat him up? Lu Fei asked straightforwardly, right in front of Ma Senlin. Chen Guang shrugged. He had beaten Zhu Jifa up, and his anger had also dissipated. He just needed to wait for Zhu Jifa to sober up, and then he would slap the UBS black card on his face to let this guy know how stupid he was. He was in a good mood, something like that. He deserved to be beaten up, so I beat him up. When saying this, Chen Guang suddenly thought of the scene when Zhong Bai and the others smashed Dong Tao's car. They were probably as overbearing as he was now. They smashed your car, threw you a business card, and asked you to pay for it, but you didn't dare. However, Chen Guang did not have the slightest intention to pay for Ma Sunlin. Ma Sunlin also looked at Lu Fei blankly, with a blank face. He knew the Missy of the Lu family. He had seen her from afar, but he didn't even have the qualifications to go up and talk to her. She was definitely not someone that he, as the president of a county branch of a commercial bank, could afford to offend. In a normal sense, running a business required people in the banking system, but when the scale and power of the Lu family reached the level of tyrannical power, the relationship between them was not in the normal sense. Not to mention other things, just based on the influence of the Lu family in Sichuan province, one word from them, and Ma Semlin's career prospects would basically be bleak, and he might not be able to keep his backing. Behind him, Zhong Bai and Wang Qing had already rolled up their sleeves and rushed inside. Zhong Bai was very excited. What's wrong? Brother Guang fought with someone?
Great.
Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? Seeing Zhong Bai again, Ma Semlin's heart thumped again. The young master of Huangxiang Corporation was also here. This situation didn't seem right. He called this young man Brother Guang? Called him brother? Why did he look like he was a lackey? Wang Qing was worthy of being Wang Guoxiong's son. He had already squeezed to the front silently with his hands behind his back, probably hiding something. Wang Qing had already seen Chen Guang's godlike feat in the Xiangjiang car gambling competition. He saw with his own eyes that he used his GTR to step on the heads of all the car kings in the world, becoming a legend of a generation and fulfilling his highest dream of racing. Even though he no longer raced, every time he saw the live broadcast videos brought back by Lu Fei, Wang Qing still felt his scalp tingling and his blood boiling. Today, Chen Guang had already become a god in his heart. Those who dare to go against my god are my enemies. But what made Ma Sunlin feel the most despair was not Wang Qing, because he did not know Wang Qing, the son of a rather low-key underground boss in the 5 capitals. What really made his legs go soft was another young man standing behind Wang Qing with an awkward expression. Yes, it was this 26-year-old young man who had a lot of connections. Last month, he suddenly landed on his head and became his immediate boss. At this age, he did not dare to even fart when he sat on his head. But now he saw him here. He was so inconspicuous in the crowd. Who exactly was this Brother Guang? You King knows so many big shots, and you yourself are also someone who can slap 10 million yuan. And you still want me to borrow a chicken feather. You guys are playing with me. Ma Sunlin felt like he was about to collapse. Ma Sunlin, what the hell is going on? This guy also knew that something was wrong, so he quickly squeezed from the back to the front. Duan Wen, you know him? Lu Fei turned her head and asked. Duan Wen nodded awkwardly. My subordinate, President Ma Sunlin of the county branch. Chapter 340. Hearing those words, Chen Guang nearly burst into laughter. He felt that Ma Sunlin was truly unlucky today. It was one thing for him to beat him up, and it was another thing for him to bump into Lu Fei, Zhong Bai, and Wang Qing. He really didn't expect that Duan Wen, whose name he didn't even remember among Zhong Bai's group, was his immediate superior. How unlucky must this person be for him to be so unlucky? Well, now that things had come to this, he really didn't have to worry about Ma Semlin's revenge anymore. It was a pity that he should have broken one of his hands just now. So now it was better to give him another stab. Chen Guang pursed his lips and added oil and vinegar to Ma Semlin's great achievements today, as if he was telling a story. Chen Guang had always been good at hitting a dog when it was down. Ma Sunlin listened with cold sweat, his legs were weak, and his face was pale. However, he was actually more afraid of Chen Guang, so he didn't even dare to fart. Among this group of people, there were descendants of famous families like Lu Fei and Zhong Bai. His immediate superior seemed to be just a little brother in the crowd, but Zhong Bai, who was the leader, called him Brother Guang. This person who called him Brother Guang was the real big shot, okay? You're a great man, and don't hold grudges against me, okay? Why are you so ruthless to a small role like me? That's about it. Duan Wen, you have a good subordinate. Chun Guang said in a half-joking and half-serious manner. They had known each other for a long time, and he wasn't threatening Duanwen, as there was no need to. They were just familiar with each other, and he was joking. Duanwen's face was completely blue. It was very simple. Ma Sunlin had embarrassed him. If he had known that this swindler was so deceitful, he should have pretended not to know him. They were the second generation of the rich and powerful. The most important thing was their face. If they lost money, they could just go back to their family. If they lost face, it was difficult to earn it back. Ma Sunlin, I'm really... Duanwen slapped Ma Sunlin's left face hard again, and the sound was so clear that it made people's teeth ache. All right, Duanwen, if you want to teach someone a lesson, then get this group of trash out. Don't bother me in the private room. On the other side, Zhongbai quickly pushed Ma Sunlin and Duanwen out. He also gave a look to the other bank employees of the other counties to get lost. The reason was very simple. When Wang Qing heard Chen Guang say that Ma Sunlin dared to take advantage of his sister-in-law, he was so king excited that he pulled out a knife. Chen Guang also saw Wang Qing's actions and felt that there was no need to kill him. He coughed violently and said, "Ahem. All right. My sister-in-law didn't really suffer any losses. Let's leave it at that." When Duanwen pulled Ma Sunlin's ear outside, Chen Guang scratched his head in embarrassment and looked at Lu Fei. How can I do that? I accidentally relied on you to support me again. Zhongbai whispered in his ear. Brother Guang, save it. We're saving Ma Sunlin's life. Chen Guang raised his eyebrows. What do you know? Zhongbai coughed softly. My uncle is Wu Shan's secretary. Chen Guang suddenly understood and rolled his eyes. This circle was really small. The news of him killing Shi Jiao and his men must have reached this brat's ears. But it made sense. Although Dechuan province seemed to have hundreds of millions of people, there were only a handful of people at the top of the pyramid. Zhongbai and Tang Xiaokai were primary school classmates, and Tang Ying and Wu Tong were best friends who grew up together. This small circle was really only so small. It's so boring. It's because of the existence of people like you that it's so difficult for me and Brother Fa, who worked hard to start from scratch, to survive. They couldn't eat in Hailing Pavilion anymore, so they simply moved to a private clubhouse a few minutes away from Hailing Pavilion. It happened to be the place where Lu Fei and the others often met. The meal really cost more than 40,000 yuan, but Zhu Jifa didn't pay for it. Duanwen rushed to pay the bill, which was considered to save his face today. Zhu Jifa was quite drunk, so Chen Guang simply carried him downstairs and went to the pharmacy downstairs to buy some hangover medicine. On the way, Zhu Jifa was still muttering in a daze. President Ma, our factory really has a lot of hope. Chen Guang heard this and felt sad. This guy really had it tough. Although he always drove a BMW 5 to show off, his acting was full of blood and tears. President Ma was just a portrayal of his daily life. If he wanted to build a good business, it was inevitable that he would encounter all kinds of disgusting things. There was definitely more than one Ma Sunlin in his life, but he still gritted his teeth and endured it. Forget it. As a brother, I'll help him. When they arrived at the clubhouse, Lu Fei and the others muttered and brought them to the number 1 private room. Chen Guang began to panic when he saw everyone talking excitedly. He always heard that some second-generation rich people usually had a heavy taste and even dared to touch drugs that shouldn't be touched. Looking at these people's red faces, he was a little flustered. I don't want to touch that stuff. You guys, you're not going to do it, are you? Chen Guang was a little restless and asked Lu Fei, who was sitting next to him, in a low voice. Lu Fei spat at him. I'll spit on your face with salt soda. What are you thinking? What do you think Wang Qing is doing? On the other side, Wang Qing was holding a USB flash drive with an expression like he was on a pilgrimage. His eyes suddenly lit up as he looked at Chen Guang, as if he was going to eat him up. Brother Racing God, this USB flash drive contains all the videos of your competitions in Hong Kong. We've been waiting for today for a long time. We're just waiting for you to explain it to us, personally. I've watched this video at least 50 or 60 times, and there's only admiration left. But I don't quite understand a lot of your movements. Without you personally explaining it, it's not enough. Chen Guang let out a long sigh of relief. Damn it, isn't it just watching a video? Is it necessary for all of you to show an addict expression? Scared me to death. At this time, Hu Ling put a wet towel on the forehead of the sleeping Zhu Jifa and quietly pulled on Chen Guang's sleeve. Chen Guang, who are they? Chen Guang slapped his forehead. That's right, I almost forgot today's biggest entertainment. Quick. Give me all of your business cards. Show them to Hu Ling. Be more domineering and arrogant, especially you, Zhong Bai. Take out your gold-stamped business card of Huang Xiang Group's senior director and use your most handsome posture. Zhong Bai and the others were stunned. Brother, although we often use this method to show off and slap people in the face, you can't do it like this. You're making us so embarrassed. You make it sound like we're really people who use business cards to show off. No, it doesn't seem to be wrong. The group of people happily took out their business cards and stuffed them into Hu Ling's hands. Hu Ling's eyelids twitched every time she took a business card. Her shock at this time was no better than Dong Tao's, but fortunately, these people seemed to be on the same side. She was much happier than Dong Tao. At this time, Lu Fei's nameless but pretentious business card became her shortcoming. She was too lazy to give it out. Anyway, Zhong Bai and the others were enough. Hu Ling was holding a stack of business cards and giggling. She turned her head from time to time to look at the sleeping Zhu Jifa beside her, and then looked at Chen Guang with a blank expression. Zhu Jifa hadn't been hit yet, but Hu Ling was already heavily injured. Chen Guang chuckled and didn't explain further. He was just waiting for Zhu Jifa to wake up and transfer the money, then he would give him a big surprise. There seemed to be something wrong with the computer, and Wang Qing still had a long way to go. Lu Fei carelessly bumped her thigh against Chen Guang's leg. I think you were a little impulsive just now. Chapter 341.
Chen Guang knew what she meant.
This big sister was going to teach him how to conduct himself. Seeing that he was listening attentively, Lu Fei couldn't bear to scold him anymore. She sighed. It's just that we're all here, and Duanwen happens to be Ma Senlin's boss. So even if you cripple him, things can still be controlled. But if you want to learn how to run a business, you can't be so impulsive. Don't think that Ma Senlin is just an ordinary branch president. Whether it's in business or politics, who doesn't have a backer? You beat up the little guy, so naturally you will attract the big guy's attention. If you hit him because of a disagreement, it will make it difficult for you to move forward. You have to calm down in the future. Lu Fei was afraid that he would get impatient. I'm doing this for your own good. Coincidentally, Ma Senlin's backer is Duanwen. If it were someone else, it would not have been so easy to resolve. Chen Guang shrugged. I know you're doing this for my own good. I understand the logic, so I held it in for brother Fa's sake. Everything else is fine, but he wanted to touch sister Hu Ling. I can't stand it. I'll do the same thing again. That won't do. You can't just kill him on the spot. What if he comes back to take revenge? Lu Fei saw that he did not take any warning and felt helpless. Chen Guang took out his phone.
You're looking down on me.
As he said that, he showed Lu Fei the video he secretly recorded at the dinner table. If Ma Senlin really doesn't want to let go, I'll put this on my Weibo. TSK, what influence can a lousy Weibo have? Lu Fei rolled her eyes in disdain, but she felt more at ease. Chen Guang was not as impulsive as he looked. He did things methodically. He secretly recorded the video and had evidence. Although Ma Senlin worked for a commercial bank, he might not be able to handle this kind of scandal. Chen Guang chuckled. You don't understand. I'm going to become an internet celebrity soon. My Weibo is not lousy. Internet celebrity my ass. Lu Fei's face was full of contempt. Chen Guang was unhappy. What kind of attitude is that? I'll show you my Weibo. He has at least tens of thousands of fans now. Then, the two of them put their heads together and stared at Chen Guang's phone. 30 seconds later, Chen Guang shook his head and rubbed his eyes. What happened? Am I blind? If he remembered correctly, when he uploaded the video today, he only had around 1,000 fans at most. Even with Jin Shuriwa and Zhang Yage's reposts, it had been a few hours now, so he only had around 10,000 fans at most. What the F? Asterisk CK. 1,100,000, more than 800,000 fans. Lu Fei was also stunned. With her status, she did not need to care about being an internet celebrity. As long as she wanted to, she could be more famous than most internet celebrities at any time. But Chen Guang was someone she knew. She had seen him often. Other than the fact that he could instantly turn into an invincible racing god after putting on his mask, his real identity was just a little student. But he was actually a famous person.
Awesome.
He's indeed an internet celebrity. 800,000 fans is not bad. Wait. All-rounder. Lu Fei was about to scream. Chen Guang hurriedly covered her mouth. Lower your voice. Chen Guang had closed the comments and deleted his personal information because he did not want people to know the true identity of the all-rounder. In the end, he had accidentally forgotten about it in front of Lu Fei. Lu Fei was smart and guessed his thoughts. She whispered into his ear. All right, I won't say it loudly. I really did not expect it to be you. We were just discussing this video when we were eating. I thought that the mask looked familiar, but I thought it was a coincidence. I did not expect it to be you. Chen Guang grunted. It's good enough that you know about this. I came up with such a lousy name, but I still have a lot of fame. Later on, I will have other things to show off. Lu Fei was at a loss. Look at you. You don't look like you like to be famous. What are you after? Chen Guang rolled his eyes. It's not easy to explain to you. It's fun, right? Can I tell you that I want to collect faith energy? Of course not. Then this is our little secret? Only the two of us know about it? Lu Fei said excitedly. She was actually happy because of this. Chen Guang did not lie to her. Including Jin Shuriwa, Zhang Yage, and you, a total of 4 people know about it. That's right. After all, your Weibo post was reposted by the 2 of them. You know these 2 people? Lu Fei was curious about the relationship between Chen Guang and his right-hand man. It was a coincidence. We met a few times. We're friends, I guess, Chen Guang said indifferently. Lu Fei suddenly put her hand on his shoulder. Then, is your relationship with your right-hand man better or mine better? Chen Guang was burning with Lu Fei's touch. My relationship with you is better. Much better. Lu Fei was satisfied. At least you have a conscience. By the way, I told you to work for me last time. Come over during the summer vacation and be my sweetheart. I'll show you how I do business. It's totally different from your brother's small business. I guarantee that you'll learn something from it. Chen Guang was a little tempted, but he had other plans for this summer vacation, so he did not plan to follow Lu Fei around for the time being. Moreover, he was about to get 10 million from Liuli, and he would have to dig out at least a few million from his Dota team. This woman seemed to have not recovered from the pain of being blown up into an African, but it was better not to provoke her, right? More than 100 million yuan in cash was in his account, but it was not his. It was quite a bitter feeling. Let's put this aside for now. There are quite a lot of things to do during the summer vacation.
Sure.
Anyway, let me know when you're interested. I have no problem with it. Lu Fei was not angry at Chen Guang's rejection. On the other side, Wang Qing was finally done. This guy was quite creative. He actually re-edited the video and made it look like a documentary. The opening scene was accompanied by blood-boiling background music, and there were even special effects added to the scene. It looked especially cool. He put the microphone in Chen Guang's hand and said regretfully, "It's a pity that this video can't be shown outside, or it will cause a sensation. Save it. I don't want to be blacklisted by the traffic police. And I don't want to be challenged by street racers who jump out of nowhere all day long." Chen Guang was not interested in what Wang Qing said at all. Anyway, the statue of the racing god training ground had already been erected, so it was useless to make him more famous. He did not care about anything else at all. However, it was quite a unique feeling to watch his 5 days in Hong Kong from beginning to end again. Since everyone wanted to hear it, he might as well explain it to them. Chapter 342. From his point of view, Watching his performance in the 5 days of the racing competition again was actually quite a good feeling. Especially when he was bragging. The group of senior directors of Huangxiang Group, the president and general manager of the subsidiary of Lu's chemical industry, the director of the business department of Dongcheng Trading Company, these young big shots, who others had to stretch their necks and look up to, all stared at him as if he was a god. Those pairs of eyes were full of worship and infatuation. It was a great feeling. Please don't stop. Here, I chose inertial drift. You guys know inertial drift, right? It's finding a key point, Chen Guang began to explain. Even though the group of people had seen this video countless times, it was different with Chen Guang's commentary in person. This tasted strong. Brother Racing God, tell me here, it's that time when you flew. How did you dare to fly? Did you accurately calculate the distance before you took off? The good student Zhong Bai called him Brother Racing God again. Chen Guang smiled confidently and flipped his hair, looking especially elegant and handsome. Calculate my ass. I didn't have time to calculate. I'm not a F***king computer. Just rely on feeling. Intuition. That's the most trustworthy partner of the best racer. Intuition? The group of racing fans only felt that Brother Racing God was really cool at this moment. It wasn't that they hadn't seen the world. In fact, they had seen a lot of the world. But in the field of racing that they loved the most, standing in front of them was the world's god. In the flesh, no discount. This was the man who left an unsurpassable average speed record of 175.99 on the mountain track. This was the strongest racing god in history. Anyway, I'll tell you the truth. My driving skills can't be replicated. I didn't expect you to learn it when I taught you once. Wang Qing might have some talent, but he's still far from it. Chen Guang pointed at Wang Qing. If you want to learn my skills, you have to be prepared to die 95 times. Fortunately, Wang Qing didn't have any major accidents, thank God. Wang Qing scratched his head in embarrassment. So, I don't care if you still want to race in the future. Anyway, from my personal point of view, I hope you can treat this as a hobby. You don't have to risk your lives to race. Anyway, you won't be able to catch up to me in your lifetime. Chen Guang also knew that he wasn't in a position to lecture these people. Even if he did, they might not listen to him. So, he simply mentioned it, which was considered as a perfect ending to his lively class today. Wang Qing, who had suffered a great loss before, was the first to nod. I said at the time that I wouldn't act up again. Now I'm just fascinated, but not by myself. Just like football fans who like to watch football, they don't necessarily need to know how to play. The others also nodded in agreement. It seemed that the incident with Wang Qing had indeed awakened these people. It's good that you're not showing off. Last time, I almost got torn apart by Wang Qing's father. Don't do it again. My heart won't be able to take it. Chen Guang teased. Hu Ling didn't dare to interrupt from the beginning to the end. She could only tidy up Zhu Jifa in the corner while foolishly watching Chen Guang. She almost suspected that the identities printed on these people's business cards were bullshit. How could there be such a boss, such a bank director? What is this place? Zhu Jifa woke up in a daze. He mumbled. This poor brother Fa finally got rid of the alcohol in his stomach with the help of the anti-hangover medicine. On the other side, Chen Guang had just finished showing off and quickly came over. Brother Fa, you're awake? Come, drink some tea and clear your head. Zhu Jifa sat up with Hu Ling's help. He took the Tai Guanyin tea from Chen Guang and took a big gulp. Then, he looked around and said in confusion, "What's going on? Where's President Ma? Is he still thinking about that grandson?" Chen Guang curled his lips. "These are my friends. That grandson Ma beat me up and ran away." Ah! Zhu Jifa's eyes widened. He looked at Chen Guang in a daze for a long time. There was a hint of anger in his eyes, but he gradually calmed down. He first sighed. "Sigh, I shouldn't have brought you here. You can't take this kind of humiliation." Chen Guang thought he would scold him. He didn't expect this brother to quickly swing his hand and said fiercely, "Damn it. If I beat him up, then I beat him up." How badly did he beat him up? Does this count as a death grudge? If it's a death grudge, I'll find someone to send him on his way. The one who strikes first has the advantage. The one who strikes later will suffer. Zhu Jifa decided to go all out. Lu Fei, Zhong Bai, and the others, who had been giving Chen Guang some space, were also quietly sizing up this brother that Chen Guang respected. Because of the previous incident, they originally looked down on the cowardly Zhu Jifa. Although they didn't hear what he was muttering, Lu Fei and the others, who were very knowledgeable, had already guessed his plan from his expression. They couldn't help but look at this person in a new light. Chen Guang was also stunned. This brother was not the same as his impression of Brother Fa. At least, he was different from the past 2 years. Had this guy finally returned to his true self from when he was young and insensible and had fought with her fiercely and fiercely? This time, I dragged you down because of me. If it was just me, I could bear it. But now that you beat him up, the grudge has been formed. There's no retreat, so I won't retreat. Chen Guang gritted his teeth. Anyway, he was beaten up pretty badly. His face is swollen, but there's a reason for it. Immediately, Chen Guang told Zhu Jifa what he saw and heard before the fight, but this time, he didn't exaggerate. After all, Hu Ling didn't really suffer any losses. As expected, this brother exploded when he heard it. He jumped up violently and was about to call his hometown to pull him up. Hu Ling and Chen Guang hurriedly stopped him. After a while, he finally calmed down. Zhu Jifa also gradually calmed down. He fiercely slapped his own face. *CK. I'm not a man. How could I let my woman suffer like this? Chen Guang comforted him. It's okay. You're a man. This time, it was purely an accident. Who would have thought that Ma Sunlin was that kind of person? We brothers don't say anything else. This time, fortunately, we have you. You did the right thing. Otherwise, I would have to die with his family. Zhu Jifa sighed. It's a pity that things have turned out like this. There's no hope of getting a loan. Forget it. If the factory collapses, then so be it. It doesn't matter what I do. You said that using miting to open the internet can't make money, right? Then I'll change to a car with lower gas mileage and come to Wujing to drive with you. All right, save it. Sister Hu Ling, hurry up and show these brothers' business cards to Brother Fa. Look at him when he's driving. How can he open the internet? Chen Guang chuckled and gave Hu Ling a look. Zhu Jifa's face was blank until he saw the business card that Hu Ling gave him. His eyes were even more blank. Zhong Bai and the others gave enough face to Chen Guang. Every time Zhu Jifa saw a business card, he would come up and say hello to him. Every time he said hello, Zhu Jifa's little heart would beat faster. The more business people were in, the more they understood what the information on these people's business cards represented. The more difficult it was to start a business, the more jealous, envious, and looked up to these people who were born with a golden spoon in their mouths. He could not help but be shocked. He was much more knowledgeable than Chen Guang. He had read a lot of financial magazines. All of these companies were like thunder to his ears. They were all a bunch of rich second generations born with a golden spoon in their mouths. Chapter 343. Duanwen was the last one. He was embarrassed. Bro Fa, I'm Ma Senlin's superior. I'm worried about this incident. I'll investigate and deal with it. I'll arrange another branch for you. As long as the procedures are in line, we can negotiate. Oh, right. You don't have to worry about Ma Senlin's revenge. He can't even protect himself now. Duanwen was straightforward. Although he was Ma Senlin's superior, he couldn't just dismiss his subordinates. However, Ma Senlin's hands were not clean. He might have coaxed Duanwen well in the past, but after today's incident, Duanwen saw how bad his new subordinate was. It was beyond his expectations. It was not surprising that he was fired. Zhu Jifa was dumbfounded. He first looked at Chen Guang, then at Duanwen before looking at Hu Ling, who was panicking by the side. Chen Guang felt that this was not enough. He smiled and took out his UBS black card. Bro Fa, do you see this card? It's a UBS black card. Don't even think about it if your personal assets are less than 10 million. I told you, 10 million is nothing. I can transfer it to you anytime. What was wrong with this world? Looking at Zhu Jifa's silly appearance, Chen Guang felt smug in his heart and imitated Zhu Jifa's arrogant tone. Why are you asking about the matters of adults?
Oh. Check it out.
How about it? Call me bro, and I'll transfer the money to you on the spot. Lu Fei, who was behind, could not stand his arrogance anymore. She slapped the back of his head. What's the point of being arrogant? Do you really think 10 million is like buying things online? You can even transfer money through your phone? Make an appointment.
Sign on the spot.
There's a whole bunch of paperwork waiting for you. Transfer the money on the spot? Transfer it to your face. This is? Zhu Jifa looked at Lu Fei. She looked like his sister-in-law, but not really. Even when Lu Fei was joking with Chen Guang, her aura was too strong. Lu Fei smiled and leaned on Chen Guang's back. The information on my business card is too simple, so I didn't give you a business card. Hi, Brother Fa. I'm Lu Fei from the Lu Chemical Industry Group, a hardcore fan of Chen Guang. Lu's Chemical Industry. These 4 resounding big words reverberated like thunder in the ears. This unreasonably beautiful girl in front of him was called Lu Fei, also surnamed Lu. Combined with the identity of the other people, the identity of this master was self-evident. Hello. Zhu Jifa stood up from the sofa. Lu Fei hurriedly asked him to sit down. Brother Fa, sit down. You're Chen Guang's brother. I don't dare to put on airs with you. Alright, you two brothers have a nice chat. I'm going to continue to worship Chen Guang's miracles. I haven't seen enough yet. After saying that, she left, leaving Chen Guang to do whatever he wanted. After Lu Fei left, Zhu Jifa was stunned for a long time before he recovered. He looked at Chen Guang in disbelief. You really struck it rich? Chen Guang nodded. I really struck it rich. Just this month, I struck it rich. Very, very rich. I'm afraid you'll be scared to death if I tell you. Anyway, it's not hard for me to take out 10 million to give you. If I give you more, I'm afraid I'll cause trouble. Just as Chen Guang said this, a sinister sneer came from the depths of his mind. Although Azure didn't say anything, she actually understood it very well. Aren't you afraid that I'll squander it all for you? In a hurry to spend it? I understand. Little brat, I'll let you understand how stupid you are. You dare to question my ability. I'm not joking with you. Not only did I finish watching The Great Era, I also finished watching The Unmatched Business Genius. Chen Guang silently teared up. Why is it a TV series again? Big sister, can you come up with something more reliable? What kind of attitude is that? The Unmatched Business Genius is really a classic. There's a lot of truth in it. It's over. It's all over. This crazy goddess has entered the zone. There's no saving her. On the other side, Zhu Jifa took a deep breath and took out a cigarette to calm himself down. He thought for a moment. Didn't Director Duan say that we can arrange for another bank loan? You won't need this money. I've already given it to you, and you actually don't want me to be angry with you. Won't need your sister. I'm telling you, if you dare not accept it, I'll donate it to Project Hope. Do you believe me? I mean what I say. You have to take Duan Wen's money, and you have to take mine too. Sure enough, threats were the best method. Zhu Jifa knew that Chen Guang was an unreasonable person. He hurriedly said, Don't. If you really have the money, I won't stand on ceremony with you. The factory situation is really critical now. The earlier the funds are in place, the earlier I can contact the factory. But I can't take your money for nothing. How about this? The factory is worth about 8 million now. I'll take 49% of your shares. Chen Guang waved his hands. Don't worry, this is what I'm lending you. The two brothers argued for a long time. In any case, Chen Guang insisted that he didn't want Zhu Jifa's shares. Even if Zhu Jifa swore to the heavens that the factory situation was good and that as long as there was a new production line, he didn't want it. That factory was the blood, sweat, and tears of Zhu Jifa and his father. Chen Guang's money came too easily, and he was in a hurry to spend it. He didn't want to give Lily a chance to lose money, so how could Chen Guang have the heart to take 49% of Brother Fa's shares? If it wasn't for Zhu Jifa's insistence, He wouldn't even want to calculate the interest. After the two of them settled the matter, Zhu Jifa joined the crowd and watched the video of Chen Guang's competition in Xiangjiang again. Only then did he know how Chen Guang got his money and how much it was. Like the others, Zhu Jifa looked at Chen Guang as if he was looking at a god after watching the video. Chen Guang quickly pulled him back. "Remember, don't tell my dad, or he'll beat me to death." Zhu Jifa nodded repeatedly, indicating that he understood. "It's about adults, ha ha ha. Do you still want to act cool in front of me? Do you still dare to look down on me? Do you still want to be a big brother?" Chen Guang started to show off again. Zhu Jifa shook his head. "I don't dare."
Hey.
"That's right. Call me brother, or else I won't give you the loan. Are you done? I'll beat you up." Chen Guang finally went overboard. Zhu Jifa was furious. When they were about to leave late at night, Chen Guang shoved Rina's car key to Zhu Jifa. He planned to get Hu Ling to drive the car back when they went back. He really needed to change cars. Actually, they settled a lot of things that night. Although Chen Guang had donated 10 million yuan and Zhu Jifa didn't need the loan anymore, Duanwen still wanted to settle the matter. On one hand, he wanted to give face to Chen Guang, and on the other hand, he wanted to save face from Ma Xinlin. It was indeed embarrassing for him to have such a person under him. Zhu Jifa could get a bank loan of 10 million yuan in addition to Chen Guang's loan. With 20 million yuan in hand, he wouldn't panic. Apart from that, Lu Fei, Zhongbai, and the others also asked for Zhu Jifa's business card when they left. They made it clear that they could consider cooperating with him if they had a suitable order after he was done with the factory. They wouldn't purposely joke about this. Since they really asked for a business card and took the initiative to ask for it, it meant that they were serious about it and not fooling around. Why did these big companies want to cooperate with Zhu Jifa's small printing factory? It was also because of Chen Guang. This made Zhu Jifa very happy. He felt like a man who achieved the Tao. Even his chickens and dogs could ascend to heaven. It didn't feel right when he thought about it. Was he a chicken or a dog? Chapter 344. Look at you, a country bumpkin who hasn't seen the world. You're a disgrace to me. Chen Guang still couldn't restrain his desire to complain. He had been pressured by this guy to be his big brother for more than 10 years. Now he could finally avenge himself.
How satisfying.
"I'm so unlucky to have a brother like you." Zhu Jifa's face was green with anger, but he was really happy. When Chen Guang said he beat up Ma Xinlin just now, his heart was already cold. He really planned to run the internet with his brother, but he didn't expect Chen Guang to be so successful all of a sudden. Spring had suddenly fallen from the sky for his family of people who had suffered so much. "I underestimated you." Zhu Jifa sighed. "All right, you can slowly experience your brother's awesomeness. I'll be going first." Chen Guang waved goodbye to Zhu Jifa and got into Lu Fei's car. In fact, he felt that his biggest gain today was spending the 10 million yuan. On the surface, it seemed like he was simply giving money to Zhu Jifa. However, that was not the case. With the relationship between the two brothers, Zhu Jifa wanted to expand production because there were too many orders. Now, he had even hugged a lot of golden thighs in one go. His factory looked small, but it would not collapse in a short period of time. If he could seize the opportunity, he might really be able to transform from a chicken into a phoenix and expand it. Therefore, when Luli had her eyes on the money in the UBS, he transferred the 10 million yuan to Zhu Jifa and let him use it to build a factory. Not only did he not spend money, but he also made money. He saved 10 million yuan from Luli. This feeling was as good as making money. If his little trick hadn't been discovered by Luli, Chen Guang would really dare to give away 50 million yuan, let alone 10 million yuan. Unfortunately, he could only think about it. Zhu Jifa was also very excited. Although he didn't know what happened to Chen Guang, it was said that a scholar who had been away for 3 days must be treated differently. This time, he met this brother of iron underpants who grew up with him again. He hadn't changed, and the feeling of the two brothers together was still the same. But his status was completely different from what it had been in the past. Not to mention the friends he had made in the 5 capitals. Just his UBS black card alone could explain too many problems. After watching Wang Qing's documentary, Zhu Zhifa understood that Chen Guang's money had not come easily. He had risked his life to earn it. In fact, he was wrong. Everyone thought that Chen Guang's countless actions during the race were extremely thrilling. Only Chen Guang himself did not take it seriously. You mortals can't understand the realm of gods. Little Light is really different from before. I've underestimated him. Sitting in the passenger seat, Zhu Zhifa muttered. Hu Ling, on the other hand, was much calmer than Zhu Zhifa when she drove. She giggled and said, "That's right. Thinking about how you always look down on him, I think you're really stupid. Look, a loan of 10 million is such a big deal, but his friend solved it with just a word. He even rushed to pay for such an expensive table of food. How embarrassed we are." Zhu Zhifa chuckled. "Yes, I'm really stupid. I was still pointing at others. Actually, my own brother is my savior. He told me long ago that he had money, but I didn't believe him. When Uncle Chun returns to the county, I'll still secretly transfer 40% of the shares to him." Hu Ling was puzzled.
Why?
Didn't he say that he didn't want it? Zhu Zhifa shook his head and said firmly, "Why should I just accept it when he says he doesn't want it? I'm the elder brother after all. How can I take advantage of my younger brother like this? Let me tell you, our factory is going to be rich. I'll go back and work hard. In the future, when it gets big, I won't let him down. I know him. He's hot-tempered and impatient. He's not suitable for business. He can live a poor life, but when he's rich, he's a spendthrift. He doesn't use his brain when doing business. Don't look at how he's almost 200 million now. He's extremely rich, but who knows when he'll squander it all. I'll give the shares to Uncle Chen. If he goes overboard, I'll be his last resort. It's a pity that Uncle Chen hasn't paid off his debt with the court. It's quite troublesome. If it really doesn't work, I'll transfer the shares to Chen Guang's uncle first. Anyway, it's always been like this." Hu Ling didn't respond to him. She pretended to be focused on driving, but she was already complaining in her heart. Chen Guang was right to scold him. The moment he turned his back on her, he started to secretly act like a big brother again. He didn't have any self-awareness at all. "Let's get a room?" On the other side, Chen Guang was sitting in Lu Fei's car, happily looking at the beautiful woman beside him who seemed to always be wearing leather clothes. Lu Fei poked his head.
Dream on.
"You've missed your chance. I still have a big basket of documents waiting to be approved when I get back. How can it be so easy to have sex with me? Be my sweetheart, and I'll find some time to pamper you, depending on my mood. But for now, forget it." Chen Guang sent Lu Fei back to the gate of the hospital with a bitter smile. Fortunately, when he got off the car and rolled away, he had a good time, which could be considered as Lu Fei's compensation. She was really not angry about this matter, and she was really not in a hurry. It was indeed okay to do that with Chen Guang, but she had also passed the time when she was most emotional in Xiangjiang. He was still a virgin. How could she get a room with him just because she said so? "You have to arouse my mood first." But now, it's not enough. He got off the car with a big tent. It was late at night, so Chen Guang didn't dare to go back to the ward. Instead, he went directly to the hotel opposite the hospital and got a room. Lying on the bed, the quilt was also covered with a big tent. The effect of the super mighty tonic soup and the imported medicine had not completely disappeared in the past few days. Tonight, he was addicted to sex with Lu Fei, but he didn't really enjoy himself. Something happened, and he couldn't sleep. Chen Guang couldn't help but feel a little melancholy. Although he seemed to have a lot of luck with women, thinking about it carefully, it all became a disaster of love. Being a human was really suffering. It was even worse than being a dog. He could just drag a dog that looked pleasing to the eye along the street and work on it. He didn't need to care about how the world looked at him, and he could be as comfortable as he wanted. Now, he sneaked into the hospital to find the great and righteous healer, Dr. Jishir Tang, to save his life. He would definitely be beaten to death by her. Call Sister Wu Tom? It wasn't that it was impossible, but calling someone in the middle of the night just for this kind of trivial matter was too disrespectful. As his mind was letting his imagination run wild, Chun Guang thought of the embarrassing incident that he encountered with Sun Xiaoxuan in another hotel. He couldn't help but smile. He didn't know what Sun Xiaoxuan was busy with after returning to his hometown. It had only been a few days since the summer vacation started, and he didn't see her, but his heart felt a little empty because he missed her. Forget it, don't think about these useless things. I am the owner of the heavenly Holy Grail, and I can't let my lower body control my thoughts. I open Weibo to divert my attention and see if my account is really going to go against the heavens. When he looked again, the total number of fans was still around 800,000, but it was close to the 900,000 mark. It seemed that the explosive growth of the first video was about to end. Maybe it would continue to grow, and it might even break the million mark. But if there was no new hot topic, then the follow-up would be the same. But no matter what, having 1 million live fans was really the most authentic internet celebrity. He was a little hesitant about whether or not to open up private messages. After all, he was already a celebrity, and God knows how many girls with bad intentions were waiting to throw themselves into his arms. But after thinking about it, he decided to forget it. Since he had chosen to maintain a sense of mystery from the beginning, then he might as well keep it mysterious until the end. I'm not going to be a fan maniac. There are hundreds of people, and God knows if those girls that I've never met before will come to me on their own accord. This society is dark, and human nature is complicated. I am the owner of the heavenly Holy Grail, and I can't bury my limited life on those unknown girls. How about this? I'll just casually post a Weibo to say hello to my fans. Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm a cute, almighty Superman. Please take care of me in the future. I'll keep updating exciting videos. Please continue to support me. *CK. My cute way of greeting actually caused me to lose fans. I lost more than 300 fans in the blink of an eye. Chun Guang's face was full of tears. Was the way I posted on Weibo wrong? There was no reason. I clearly said it in such a friendly and approachable manner. Do you guys have to be so heartless? Is it because my way of greeting is too uncool and seems too low? That's possible. Should I just delete it? Forget it, I've already lost fans anyway. What's the point of deleting it? Besides, I'm not the kind of man who forcefully pretends to be cool. I didn't expect that I would become a fan maniac after just saying hello to everyone. My coolness has plummeted. Finally, he kept refreshing, and after losing more than 3,000 fans at once, it started to slowly rise back up. After being distracted for a long time, he put his hand under his crotch. Trying to divert his attention was useless. What should be hard was still hard. Chun Guang's face also darkened. What kind of sin did I get into? My dad harmed me, Tang Ying harmed me, and Lu Fei harmed me too. Sure enough, now that things have come to this, I can only rely on my internet drive to get by. Perhaps it was due to luck. Chun Guang suddenly opened WeChat, and then his eyes widened, as if he had seen a ghost. Zhang Yage, this woman. You're really something. Chapter 345. In front of him were a few photos that Zhang Yage had sent about 10 minutes ago. The first photo was still okay. At least she was wearing underwear. In the photo, Zhang Yage was blushing. She was making a V sign with her hand in front of the mirror. Her face was blushing shyly. Next to the photo was her photoshopped artistic words. The scale you wanted. The lavender lace bra and the same lavender triangular lace pants were captured by the iPhone 7s's ultra-clear camera. Alright, the scale of the first photo was still tolerable. He could just treat it as a swimsuit photo. But from the second photo onwards, something was wrong. This time, she didn't take a photo of her face. He could only see her from her neck down. The most crucial problem was that there was nothing on her upper body. She was completely naked. Luckily, she used her hands to cover the important parts. The caption read, "I'm a little embarrassed." Chun Guang spat. So you know how to be embarrassed. You don't mean what you say. If you're really embarrassed, why did you send this photo? He scrolled down. The third photo.
Crazy.
This woman is crazy. Her hands are not covered. After squinting at the photo for about 10 seconds, Chen Guang let out a long sigh of relief. Thank God, she was smart enough to censor it. But this was already very exaggerated. Okay. If it wasn't for the first photo, he wouldn't have believed that it was Jiang Ye's own photo. Even if he knew that it was the truth, he would rather lie to himself and say that it wasn't. But it really couldn't be faked. The naughty little black mole beside her belly button was right there. The caption for the third photo was very simple. There were only 3 words. Scroll down. He scrolled down a little and found that the top of the photo was exactly the same as the third photo. Chen Guang could roughly guess something. The version without holy light? He started to panic. What should he do? Should he look or not? Forget it. If you dare to send it, I dare to look. Coward. That's right. It really is the version without holy light. Duong. The sound was coming from a place where it shouldn't be. Chen Guang's eyes widened, as if he was possessed. He felt as if he had been struck by lightning. This was really Jiang Ye. What had happened to this world? Is it my eyes that are wrong, or my phone, or the world? He stared at it for 3 minutes, zooming in again and again, trying to figure out every detail. Finally, the image stopped at the small black mole next to her belly button. At this time, the mole had been enlarged to the point that it occupied half of the phone's screen. It really belonged to her, there was no doubt about it. This crazy woman. The picture was restored to its original size, and the accompanying text was still 3 words. Scroll down. I don't want to read anymore. Chen Guang was terrified. Duong, duong, duong. Once this special skill was added, it was impossible to stop. Even though he knew that it was going to be a trap, he still wanted to jump in without hesitation. All right, he continued to flip to the next page. It was different from the previous 2. She took another photo. Her upper body was still bare, and everything was there. But she found a notebook out of nowhere and wrote a few words on it with a watercolor pen. It was obvious that she was very nervous when she wrote about herself. Her little hands were trembling. The notebook in the photo was in her left hand, and on it was written, "To my dear light, the photo really belongs to me. Although strong alcohol is good, don't be greedy." 5 minutes later, Chen Guang's heavy breathing came from his nose. He silently pulled a few pieces of tissue from the bedside table. He held the phone tightly and stared at the ceiling with a dull face. His mind was blank, and only one sentence kept echoing in his mind. The old man was tricked. He was trapped in his own trap. Big sister, I was just joking with you. I didn't really expect you to send me any big pictures. Big sister, are you crazy? You are a celebrity. Where is your modesty? Where is your integrity? I was just joking. Why did you take it seriously? He raised his hand and looked at the white photos that Jiang Ye sent him on WeChat. He wanted to cry, but no tears came out. He never dreamed that this woman would dare to send it. A casual joke turned out to be a prophecy. Jiang Ye was completely different from the celebrity in his mind. He had been trying very hard to keep a distance from this troublesome person. Today, he finally had a stroke in his brain. He said that the photos she sent were too small, but deep down, he didn't really mean it. He just felt that he hadn't talked to her for a long time and was just joking with her. He only thought that the other party was a famous superstar in the country. Even if she was interested in him, why would she send such indecent photos to others? Aren't you afraid that I'll sell it for money? Or are you not afraid that I'll lose my phone? Aren't you afraid that you'll fail miserably? So this is impossible. There's no reason. But now it really happened. What should I do now? I've already seen it, and I feel like I'm really going to be trapped this time. Chen Guang narrowed his eyes. He didn't want to look at the photos on the phone, but he couldn't help but sneak a peek. This figure is really good. There's a line of words below. F***CK. It's been so long, and I didn't notice it at all. How shameful, how shameful. I gathered my courage for a long time before I dared to take this photo. Do you like it? Remember to delete it after you see it. Although it didn't take a photo of my face, it won't affect me much even if I lose it. But if someone else sees it, you'll suffer a big loss. I like you so much. Chen Guang thought that he had seen through Jiang Ye's bottom line. It was only at this moment that he realized he was wrong. This woman has no bottom line at all. He remembered the first time they met. This so-called big star's evil eyes kept drifting around his underwear when he was almost naked. He also remembered the woman's words before he left the set. It was purely to tease him. I like you. It was also that time when he drove away to get rid of these two people and entered the racing god training ground. Later, when he was about to take the Patek Philippe at Disney, this girl threw the watch into her chest and asked him to reach in to take it. Celebrities these days, artists these days, their moral integrity is really broken all over the place. In order to tease me, you paid too much. Do you mean that you'll be happy if I take advantage of you? Jiang Ye, this girl is sick. It's all right. And she's seriously sick. Hopefully, her family will find out that she's insane and seek medical treatment as soon as possible. While deleting their conversation, Chen Guang checked his phone to make sure that he didn't leave any meaningless messages. He felt relieved, but at the same time, he also felt a little regretful. After thinking about it, he decided that he still had to send her a reply. It didn't matter if this benefit was poisonous or if he had fallen into her trap. She had already sent it to this extent. If he still didn't reply, it would be too much. Sister Jiang Ye, I was scared by you. It's okay, it's okay. That's enough. Thank you, I'm scared. Chapter 346. In the end, he replied like this because he really didn't know what kind of expression he should use to face this tough big shot who cheesed him with her moral integrity. If it weren't for the fact that he had taken her Patek Philippe and felt that he owed her, Chen Guang really didn't want to have any more contact with Jiang Ye. He always felt that she was too unreliable, and if he was not careful, he would be dragged into the mud pit and be doomed eternally. However, thanks to her, he could indeed sleep soundly and peacefully tonight. Smelling the pungent and sour smell coming from the bed, Chen Guang thought so. After getting up early the next morning and going to the hospital to greet his mother and old man Kenner, Chen Guang slipped out early and took a taxi to the hotel to find Zhu Jifa. The sooner the money was transferred, the sooner he could feel at ease. He always felt that Liuli was ready to make a move at any time to show her power as a God-Emperor-level financial steward. How bad could she be? Chen Guang really couldn't imagine. In short, he just guessed it as tragic as possible. I hope she can leave me some change. Transferring 10 million yuan was indeed not something that could be done with just a few words. Even if it was a private transfer, UBS, which was famous for its security, would never allow something like 10 million yuan to be transferred easily. After spending the whole morning, Chen Guang, accompanied by the manager of the only branch of UBS in the 5 capitals, signed countless documents and even had a video chat with the head office of UBS and the person in charge of Asia Pacific who had helped him apply for this card. Finally, the money was transferred to Zhu Jifa's account. Chen Guang was tormented, but it was not over yet. Zhu Jifa took out a large pile of documents, forced him to read them word by word, and signed a pile of documents on the spot. He thought it was easy for him. I am rich, and I don't lack money. I will give it to you. We are brothers in this life. If I can't even trust Zhu Jifa, Chen Guang feels that I have lived in vain. Perhaps normal people would think that his thinking was childish. Between brothers, the biggest test of human nature in this world is money, not to mention such a large amount of money. Actually, it wasn't that he wasn't sensible, and it wasn't that he didn't understand the schemes involved. There were some people that he could scheme against, and there were some things that he was not so easy to talk to. However, when it came to Zhu Jifa, the two of them had been very good to each other since they were young. Chen Guang did not want to mess with him at all. However, in Chen Guang's eyes, when Zhu Jifa had millions of dollars, he didn't even bat an eyelid. It was as if he had given Rina to him for free. When his car was wrecked, he didn't even bat an eyelid and transferred $20,000 to Chen Guang to repair it. He didn't mention anything else. When he had the opportunity to set up the factory, he was also thinking about helping her shoulder the loan for the kidney transplant surgery that might exist. He would even help to pay for 5 or 600,000 yuan. Where else could he find such a brother? Now that he had 180 million in his pocket, it was completely reasonable for him to give Zhu Jifa 10 million for emergency treatment. However, although he thought this way, Zhu Jifa also completely understood his feelings, and he was extremely touched in his heart. However, Zhu Jifa was no longer a student. Although he was only 3 years older than Guang, he had been taking over the factory ever since he graduated from high school, so he couldn't be willful. Therefore, even if Guang repeatedly rejected him, he still had to clarify the contract. If something really happened and Guang lost all of his 10 million with this contract, he was willing to give the entire factory's land to Guang as compensation without any objections. If something really happened, even if the entire factory became Guang's and Zhu Jifa himself became a worker from the boss, he actually didn't care. Anyway, as long as I have food to eat, I don't have to worry about not being able to live, right? If I really became a pauper, Lu Xiaohong would look down on me even more and divorce me. Who knows, it might even be the second spring of my life. With this thought in mind, he insisted on this clause firmly in the contract. Damn it, don't tell me you really want the factory to collapse and then let Lu Xiaohong dump you? Guang was seen through by this guy. Zhu Jifa only laughed mysteriously. Don't worry so much. Anyway, you have to sign it. Otherwise, I will tell your dad about you racing. F***ck you win. In the eyes of ordinary people, the financing process was considered a huge sum of money, but the two brothers just chatted idly like this. Zhu Jifa still had to continue going to the bank. It would be a waste not to take the 10 million that Duanwen had promised. Hu Ling drove the Rena straight away, while Guang took a taxi to the direction of the 4S shops. It was time to buy a car. After driving the Rena for almost a year, he really couldn't bear to suddenly change it. However, he didn't lack money anymore. If he didn't reward himself before Lioli lost all the money, he might not be able to get the Reno one day. This brother wants to spend money. Spend money like crazy. This brother today is rich. Willful. To put it in a more sophisticated way, this is called having a daughter at home. Acting according to one's heart. Looking at the countless 4S shops around him, Guang couldn't help but feel a little lost. Only when he arrived here did he realize that he didn't even think about what car he wanted to buy before rushing here. He was getting a little carried away. If he had known this would happen, he would have found someone to come with him. That way, they could at least give him some reference. This was a little awkward. A few days ago, he sat in Zhu Jifa's BMW 5, and it felt pretty good. However, that was just a momentary thought. Now, he felt that something was wrong. He was a student after all. If he drove a BMW in school all day long, he might be talked about behind his back every day. Look, it's that pretentious guy who drives a BMW around school all day long. It's as if he's afraid that people don't know he's rich. Therefore, after thinking about it for a while, he decided to go to the Mercedes-Benz 4S shop in front of him first. Actually, whether it was a BMW or a Mercedes-Benz, there was no essential difference at all. Guang put his hands in his trouser pockets and ran to the 4S shop's entrance. The few salespeople at the entrance glanced at him and then ignored him. They continued to face the outside, waiting for their prey at any time. The salespeople at the 4S shop generally worked like this. Excluding the situation where old customers came in, every time a new batch of customers came in, a salesperson would immediately go up to receive them. This salesperson would naturally get a commission for every successful deal. Of course, this business definitely had to be negotiated. It was common for people to have a few unsuccessful deals. Other than that, you had to receive a batch of customers first. It didn't matter if you were successful or not. Even if the person you received chatted with you for 2 or 3 minutes, they would run away. Sorry, next you have to line up. You have to wait for everyone else to be received before it's your turn in the next round. Unless you were a relative of the manager or a gold medal salesperson, you might have some privileges. However, regular ordinary salespeople had to follow this rule. Otherwise, if someone came in, wouldn't it be a joke if a swarm of people rushed up to fight their own people to steal their business? When Guang entered the door, There were 5 salespeople who were idle. There were 2 men and 3 women. Of course, the men weren't as handsome as Chen Guang, but the 3 women were really not bad. They were tall, dressed fashionably, and had exquisite makeup. Their faces were 7 out of 10, and coupled with 10 out of 10 makeup, they were definitely 8.5 out of 10 beauties. It was a man's turn in the line, but he really didn't want to waste his precious round on this young man who was obviously here to see something strange. The other 4 people in the line behind him had the same idea. They weren't blind. They also had to earn money to eat. The manager also turned a blind eye to this phenomenon and was too lazy to care. Of course, our shop service is first class, but our service is only for our customers or potential customers. For a young man like you, you're just here to see what's going on. If we really sent someone to follow you, you would feel uncomfortable, right? Look how considerate we are. Chapter 347. The salesperson couldn't be blamed for not recognizing Mount Tai. It was a hot day, and Chen Guang was wearing a simple t-shirt, a sports bag, a pair of loose Hawaiian shorts, and a pair of leather shoes. Speaking of his outfit, he had bought it when his family's hot pot restaurant had just opened. He could barely be considered a second-generation rich guy. His outfit didn't look like much, but it actually cost around $1,000. It was definitely not the shabby and shameful kind, but it was far from noble and elegant. The most fundamental reason why the salesperson ignored him was that he looked too young and he came alone, so the salesperson thought that he was purely a tourist who came to the Mercedes-Benz shop to see rare things. The Mercedes-Benz 4S shop really received a lot of similar aspiring tourists every day. Every year, there were dozens of young talents who stood in this shop and looked at the dazzling lineup of luxury cars, swearing in their hearts that they must buy one, if not 100. Some people had already done it, and some were still living in a dream. As for Chen Guang, others thought that he was living in a dream, but in fact, he could really buy any car he wanted. If he was unhappy, he could buy one and smash another. But no one paid attention to him. In the huge sales hall, there were a few other groups of people scattered around. Among these people, there was a salesperson who was as humble as a servant with a genial smile on his face. His saliva was flying everywhere, and he was in high spirits, introducing to the customers who were obviously successful people how great their cars were, how affordable the recent prices were, and how great the promotional activities were. He told them that there would be no more shops like this if they missed out on this opportunity. Don't hesitate, it's now. Place an order immediately and buy the car of your dreams. In this way, you can become a noble Mercedes-Benz owner, join the Mercedes-Benz China Club, and enjoy the supreme service. That was probably what it meant. These salespeople were tall and handsome, and the women were young and beautiful. They were all very eloquent. If the customers were single men, some of the female salespeople would even flirt with them when introducing the car models. It might be an exaggeration to say that they could throw themselves into someone's arms at any time, but if they really had feelings for each other, it could really develop into a special friendship full of sentiments. However, this had nothing to do with Chen Guang. As the cold wind blew, Chen Guang felt a chill around him. There were many people here, but why did the old man feel lonely and cold? He looked back at the 5 salespeople who were as steady as Mount Tai at the entrance. They were still staring at the door, completely unaware of Chen Guang's resentful gaze. I also want pretty girls to flirt with me. If you make me happy, I'll give you a 100,000 yuan tip every minute. Damn it, you bunch of fools who have eyes but fail to recognize Mount Tai. Standing here was a humanoid ATM with a maximum withdrawal limit of 173 million. There must be something wrong with the way I open the door today. Let the old man make a post on Weibo to calm down. Just wait to be drowned by the saliva of my 800,000, oh no, 900,000 fans. Since no one was paying attention to him, he simply found a rattan chair and sat down. Well, normally at this time, there should be someone coming to pour him a cup of tea, but there was still no one. Posting on Weibo, I'm just so narrow-minded, I'll scold you bastards to death. The salespeople of Wujing Baolong Mercedes-Benz 4S store are all idiots. I've been standing here foolishly for more than an hour, and no one is paying attention to me. This service attitude is terrible. There was a screenshot of his phone showing his account balance. Of course, anything that might reveal his personal information had been censored. All that was left was a digit that he was too lazy to count. It was a simple sentence and a simple picture, but it perfectly illustrated the grievance and sadness of a tycoon who had fallen from grace and was bullied by a dog. Of course, an hour was his appropriate artistic treatment. After all, he had only been here for less than 5 minutes. But if he didn't exaggerate, how could he attract attention? This was the basic business accomplishment of an internet celebrity. As for the few people who knew the details of his account, he had informed them to ignore his Weibo account. Although they didn't know what he planned to do, it wasn't a big deal if he said so. Yesterday, he had just set up a Weibo VIP account. Now, Chun Guang could open individual Weibo comments. He decisively opened it and was delighted. In just a few minutes, there were thousands of replies below. Brother Superman finally let me comment. I'm Brother Superman's #1 fan. This was the most useless. No, I bought my car at Wujing Baolong. They were very enthusiastic and the salesgirl was strong. She had a good figure and a strong fighting spirit. I was almost tossed to death last night. This King winner of life came to slap his face. Brother Superman, this account balance, please accept my kneel. Do you still need a leg accessory? Tycoon. Friend. I'm available at your beck and call. Brother Superman, I'm your die-hard fan. I've liked you for more than 10 years. I want to give birth to your children. Come with me, don't talk. Hubby, why did you go to buy a car alone? Wait for me. These replies were much more pleasing to the eye. Their healing power was max. Of course, there were also some that were not so pleasant to the ear. Most of them were scolding him for being a liar who relied on stunts to make videos to gain popularity. Of course, this time he posted an overweight mosaic showing off his wealth was even more ridiculous. What era was this? Who would have 173 million in their personal account? Who had a brain? Even if it was not a troll but a true fan of his, they only thought that he was joking and selling jokes. They did not take it seriously. What a joke. This was the logic of a popular person having a lot of controversies. However, Chun Guang ignored these trolls. His retina automatically filtered them, so there was no need to explain. The few salesgirls who were waiting at the door became lively. The prettiest salesgirl seemed to be a Weibo expert. Whenever she had nothing to do, she would go back and forth on Weibo. Yo! Yesterday, that almighty Superman posted on Weibo again. She screamed excitedly and looked at the screen of the phone happily. The few people beside her also moved their faces over. Obviously, these fashionable salesgirls were keeping up with the times and were familiar with every hot topic on Weibo. What did he say? Another new video? Then, the group of salesgirls was stunned. CK, Wujing Baolong Mercedes-Benz 4S store. Wasn't that referring to themselves? What the hell? The group of people looked at each other, their minds blank. Who would stand there foolishly for an hour and ignore them? If there was really someone who ignored them, it could only be that young man from just now, right? He had only been here for less than 5 minutes. The manager was also attracted by the 5 salesgirls' movements. He came over with a sullen face. What are you looking at? Let me see. The salesgirls knew that they were in trouble. They handed over their phones with bitter faces. When the manager saw it, he was instantly enraged. His face turned green. Chun Guang secretly chuckled. Who asked you to ignore me? You're in trouble, aren't you? He. Chapter 348. The manager immediately scolded. Who is this guy? Isn't this too much? How can our service be considered bad? It's written in the novels that when the male lead barges in with a shabby appearance, he will be surrounded by at least 3 salespeople the moment he enters the shop, let alone standing in the shop for an hour. A singer in charge of despising and ridiculing. How can a pauper like you deserve to come to our store? Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? Then the second person has to jump out and tell them to get lost. Don't dirty our noble and elegant floor tiles. Their attitude must be arrogant, and their nostrils must be 45 degrees to the sky, or else they will lose their imposing manner. Then the third person jumps out and is responsible for chasing them away. Their methods must be fierce, and the force of their shoving cannot be small. Just when the weak male lead is about to be pushed out of the door, he suddenly explodes. The male lead waved his hand and threw out a centurion black card. You bunch of idiots who don't recognize Mount Tai. Look at what I have in my hand. All of us salespeople have been slapped in the face, and that's not all. Suddenly, a rich man who appears on TV every day popped up. Big Brother Chow, why are you here? Did these idiots make you angry? Blah, 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 blah. Then I will be responsible for apologizing and licking the boss's boots. Later on, all 5 of you will be fired. Do you understand? Damn, this manager is so cunning. I thought you were one of us, but you're playing tricks with me. Since you have already exposed me, how can I still play? Eavesdropping on their conversation, Chen Guang's face darkened. This manager is definitely one of us. He is an experienced web novel reader. It is impossible to guard against his tricks. The salespeople thought they were going to be scolded, but now they were laughing their heads off. If we salespeople are really as stupid as what is written in the books, we would have starved to death a long time ago. Even if they are dressed shabbily, they are not beggars. There is no need to chase them away. Furthermore, didn't you buy some takeaway for that beggar who almost fainted from hunger last week? Manager, you taught us to be a person before we can do anything. We all understand that. A male salesperson laughed and said. The invisible licking was the most lethal. The manager was also a layman, so he felt very comfortable being patted. All right. You guys should also be more careful. Don't really become the kind of idiots that are written in novels. Although we are all nameless supporting characters, and as salespeople, we live in the novel to lower our intelligence so that the protagonist can show off and slap his face. But even if we are to be props, we have to be props with brains and standards. He had to adjust his working state and not give others a chance to blackmail him. Since he had been called, he had to do a good job. Although we don't know who this almighty Superman is and why he wants to defame us, we have to learn from this. Remember, even if they don't look like buyers at first glance, you have to give them a warm smile and show some passion for work. If this matter really brings a negative impact to the company, the few of you will really be out of luck. Cheer up. The manager gave them a carrot first, and sure enough, he gave them another carrot. The 5 salespeople were so scared that they trembled all over, and they hurriedly straightened their expressions. Chen Guang looked at the group of salespeople's darkened faces from afar. He felt secretly pleased, but at the same time, he felt a pain in the ass. The opposite manager did not play by the rules. He had completely seen through his tricks and weakened his pleasure. Forget it. I've met an expert. I can't afford to offend him, but can I just hide? He decisively got up and prepared to leave. If they don't let me have a good time, don't even think about earning a single cent from my pocket. Just as he reached the door, he was stopped by someone. It was not the group of salespeople who were still in a daze, but an unexpected person. His counselor, Zhuo Jingxi. Chen Guang, why are you here? Zhuo Jingxi looked at him with a face full of surprise and excitedly came forward. Chen Guang was also stunned. He had not seen this plump and beautiful counselor for a long time. He smiled happily and said, I came to look at the car. I returned my Rena to them and I plan to buy one for myself. You know what I mean. Zhuo Jingxi was also one of the live audience who had witnessed him showing disdain for all the heroes in Xiangjiang. She was well aware of how rich he was. She patted his shoulder and said, I don't care what car you want to change. Although you are not short of money now, you should still save some money. You have money to buy a coffin instead of spending it? Chen Guang chuckled. He was worried that no one would accompany him to look at the car, and he could not make up his mind. Teacher Zhuo suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and he was extremely happy and refreshed. Cici? Who is this? Your student? As the two of them were chatting, A man in a suit and leather shoes with shoulder-length hair came over and asked Zhuo Jingxi. He had the aura of an artist. Zhuo Jingxi frowned and moved closer to Chen Guang, quietly putting some distance between the two of them. Zhou Long, haven't I told you many times? Don't call me Cici, it sounds awkward. This is Chen Guang, my friend. When she introduced Chen Guang, Su Tao had no idea what she was thinking. She actually didn't mention that Chen Guang was her student. On the other side, before Zhuo Jingxi introduced Chen Guang, the man in the suit, Zhou Long, was sizing up Chen Guang with a scrutinizing gaze. He was a rather tall boy who looked very young, and his clothes were not very tasteful. Needless to say, he was the standard poor guy. This was the first impression that Zhou Long gave to Chen Guang. Chen Guang was also sizing up Zhou Long. His hair was combed very neatly, and with the help of hair wax, it seemed to stick to his scalp, as neat as a military parade. On such a hot day, this guy was actually wearing a suit. Did he not feel uncomfortable? There was also a faint scent of men's cologne on his body. Coupled with his slightly hostile gaze, Chen Guang also gave his first impression. A pretentious man, most likely plotting against Zhuo Jingxi. Teacher Zhuo did not say that he was her student, but her friend? This was a bit too much. Just now, when he came over, he deliberately closed the distance between him and Teacher Zhuo, and then Teacher Zhuo avoided him as if he was a fly. At this moment, Chen Guang instantly understood Zhuo Jingxi's thoughts and Zhou Long's thoughts. Brother, why didn't I realize that I was so quick-witted before? She definitely wanted me to help her get rid of the fly. Seeing injustice on the road, I'll help. This small favor, I'll help. On the other side, Zhou Long instantly withdrew his hostility, and a warm smile appeared on his face. He reached out his hand. Hello, little Chen, my name is Zhou Long, a professor at Dachuan Conservatory of Music. I teach piano to students. Cicis, Zhou Long. If you call me Cici again, I'm leaving. Whatever car you want to buy has nothing to do with me. Before Zhou Long could finish speaking, Zhuo Jingxi angrily rebuked him. Her face was red, and it looked like she was really angry. Zhou Long could not help but feel a little embarrassed.
Sorry.
I got used to calling you that when I was young, and I forgot to change it. Please don't mind me. Chen Guang watched the two of them quarrel with interest. This Zhou Long was quite interesting. Even when he apologized to Zhuo Jingxi, he did not forget to show off his relationship with Teacher Zhuo in front of him. They had known each other since they were young. How amazing. But it's useless. Look at your annoying appearance now. Even I feel embarrassed for you. On the other side, Zhou Long did not dare to provoke Zhuo Jingxi again. Instead, he turned his head and targeted Chen Guang. He took out an exquisite business card from his pocket and handed it to Chen Guang with one hand. He continued to smile and said, Little Chen, this is my business card. May I know where you work? Chen Guang took the business card and did not look at it carefully before putting it in his pocket. He was already being polite enough not to throw it away on the spot. You're too high for your face. I'm still a student. Chapter 349. Zhuo Jingxi, who was beside them, was also anxious. Just now, she had said that Chen Guang was a friend, and Zhuo Long had immediately started probing. It would be awkward if they were exposed. Chen Guang's mind raced. He knew that he had to help Teacher Zhuo chase away the flies today. He could not afford to lose face, so he grinned. It's fine if I'm not high up. I'm just doing some business, without any capital. It's not elegant, so I didn't say it out loud. As he said that, his left hand smoothly reached to the side and grabbed Zhuo Jingxi's waist, pulling her into his arms.
He grinned.
Actually, it doesn't matter where I'm high up. What's important is that I'm little Cici's boyfriend. Mr. Zhou, why don't you go somewhere cool? I'm not in the mood to waste time with this pretentious man. If you say another word, I'll immediately slap you in the face with my UBS black card and make you kneel in front of me. When he received the business card just now, he had seen clearly that this Zhuo Long was really a professor at a music school. He was so young, yet he was already a professor. At first glance, he seemed to be very good. Perhaps he was even a slightly famous pianist. How amazing! But I'm sorry, the person standing in front of you is a 200 million nouveau riche younger than you. Chen Guang's action not only shocked Zhuolong, but Zhuo Jingxi was also stiff and at a loss. She was so nervous that she did not know where to put her hands. Zhuo Jingxi was about to cry. Chen Guang, how did you react so quickly? I just had that idea and did not communicate it to you, but not only did you understand, you even put it into practice so quickly. But you're making too much of a commotion. You have to take it one bite at a time, okay? Oh no! Suddenly, a middle-aged woman jumped out from the side. She looked at Chen Guang and Zhuo Jingxi as if it was the end of the world. She then turned to look at Zhuolong, whose face was so dark that ink could be ground. Little C, what's going on?
Who is this guy?
Zhuo Jingxi's voice sounded like she was about to cry. Mom, this is my friend. He's just joking.
Dad,
listen to me. He's not serious at all, and always likes to joke around. Dad, calm down. Before Zhuo Jingxi could finish her sentence, she abruptly broke free from Chen Guang's embrace and waved at the middle-aged man who was about to rush over with a straight face. Holy shit! Chen Guang was so scared that he peed his pants. Wash the motor. Teacher Zhuo, you should have said that your parents were here too. This was awkward. If her parents weren't here, Chen Guang would have beaten Zhou Long to the ground if necessary. But now, this feeling was very strange. He was flirting with someone else's daughter, and as her parents, he felt like he had to lower his head in front of them. It took a lot of effort to convince Zhuo Jingxi's parents that Chen Guang was only joking. Of course, when the two elders saw that Chen Guang's expression wasn't any better, they only felt that Zhuo Jingxi's friend was really not serious. This was great. Not only did Zhou Long ask what Chen Guang did for a living, but Zhuo Jingxi's parents also joined in the line. Chen Guang was in so much pain that he almost wanted to turn around and run away. But looking at Zhuo Jingxi's pitiful look, he couldn't bear to leave her alone. In the end, he still managed to pull out a slightly more reliable identity. That's right, Chen Guang bragged that he was a glorious web novelist and that Zhuo Jingxi was a pen pal. He really hit the nail on the head. A few years ago, when Zhuo Jingxi was an undergraduate, she wrote online novels out of interest. There were all kinds of literary characters and all kinds of bitterness. She probably only managed to write about 200,000 to 300,000 words before she threw herself into the Mariana Trench. At that time, she even excitedly showed off to her parents that she wanted to write a female version of Struggle and adapt it into a television series. It would set records in the ratings and from then on, reach the peak of her life. Although she failed in the end, it was precisely because of this past that Chen Guang's made-up identity matched with Zhuo Jingxi's past. Of course, Zhou Long gave him a business card, but Chen Guang didn't have one. Why would a lousy writer need a business card? It was just that his identity as a web novelist had a slight aftereffect. Zhuo Jingxi's parents looked at him with even more displeasure. A web novelist who shut himself in his room all day long meant that he was a homebody and a useless person. Looking at his flirtatious manner just now, it made him seem even more unreliable. If it wasn't for Zhuo Jingxi's mother would have already given Chen Guang the title of stinky hooligan and little pervert. Chen Guang also had a face full of tears. He didn't expect web novelists to have no human rights. If he had known, he would have said something else. It would have been better to get closer to Lu Fei's Lu Chemical Industry and say that he was CEO Lu's secretary. Unfortunately, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Zhuo Jingxi also sensed that the situation was not good. Mom, Dad, don't be like this. Writing web novels doesn't steal or rob. If you work hard, you can also change your life. Look at Tang, Chen Guang nodded. Third young master Tang. He thought to himself. Thank third young master Qi. Every time we are looked down upon by others, we can always use you to show off. Although you earn 100 million a year and that lousy guy earns tens of thousands a year, no matter how big the difference is, we are all doing the same thing, right? Zhuo Jingxi's mother was indeed a tough middle-aged woman. She didn't have the slightest bit of goodwill toward Chen Guang. She rolled her eyes. Forget it. There are millions of web novelists in China. How many of them are third young master? Your friend is obviously up to no good. Don't interact with him in the future. She used the words, up to no good, very well. Not only did she have literary talent, but she also scolded people. Not only did she not lower her social status, but she also pointed out the fact that this kid was a stinky hooligan. She really didn't leave any face for Chen Guang. Chen Guang spat in his heart.
Run.
Without another word, he turned around and planned to run. He wasn't someone who could pinch his nose and serve others well. He definitely couldn't stick his warm face to someone's cold butt. Forget it. Today, Zhou Long had teacher Zhuo's parents as bodyguards. The old man was a wise man who knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. It was better to run first. Tonight, he would find out where the piano player lived. When he got back, he would give every one of his fingers the Qilin arm overclocked vibration service. He would take drastic measures to deal with him. Zhou Long watched from the side as Zhuo Jingxi's parents protected him. He was indescribably pleased. F***CK, we didn't even have a disagreement when we met, and you F***King made a move on my fiancé. If it wasn't for the fact that you're quite strong, and I might not be able to beat you, I would have F***King beaten you up. You actually told me to go away. Little lousy writer. Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror? You don't even dare to say what kind of book you wrote. You don't even need to think to know that it's one of those vulgar, ambiguous, and borderline novels on Qijian. And you even said that you're doing a business without any capital? You need capital to shut yourself at home and write web novels, okay? You don't want electricity. You don't want internet fees. You don't want living expenses. In this world, those who can do a business without capital are all people with great means and strong connections, okay? That definitely doesn't include a lousy writer like you. Zhuo Jingxi saw that Chen Guang was so angry that he wanted to leave, and thought that he was really angry. She first stomped her feet, and with unprecedented courage, she shouted at Zhuo Jingxi's mother, who was still rolling her eyes. Mom, how can you be like this? He's my friend. If you continue to be like this, you too will accompany Zhou Long to buy a car today. This has nothing to do with me. After shouting, she turned around and chased after Chen Guang. Faced with her sudden outburst, Zhuo Jingxi's parents looked at each other, not knowing what was going on. Chapter 350. Her daughter, Zhuo Jingxi, had always had a gentle temperament since she was young. She had almost never been angry. Even though the two elders knew that she had always been against Zhou Long as her parents, she still endured it submissively under their insistence. Even though she had been fighting and delaying, she had only done it through crazily studying, taking the postgraduate entrance exams, taking the PhD, and now participating in the administration of the school to prove herself. Although she was determined to fight, her methods were gentle. Just like today, before coming here, she had clearly said no less than 100 times that she was not married to Zhou Long, nor did she want to marry him. She did not acknowledge their fiancé relationship at all. If he wanted to buy a car, he could buy it. It had nothing to do with her. She did not want to accompany him at all. But in the end, the two elders still dragged her here, and the atmosphere was barely harmonious until she met this web novel writer. Although Zhuo Jingxi had always been cold to Zhou Long, at least she had been forcing herself to smile. But she actually shouted at us just now. You shouted at us for a so-called friend who held your waist and took advantage of you in front of your fiancé? Do you know how much effort we put into matchmaking you and Zhou Long? Do you know that after marrying Zhou Long, you'll be able to live a rich life without worries for the rest of your life? He was in the arts and had achieved Zhou Long's current achievements before the age of 30. He was a professor at a music academy, had won an international award, and was now a well-known master in the country. A son-in-law like this was more reliable than a government official of the same age. As long as he could still play the piano, he would never be short of money. Why don't you know that we are doing this for your own good? Zhuo Long was also at a loss. He was 4 years older than Zhuo Jingxi and had watched her grow up. He had always regarded her as his most important sister. Even after he became a rising star in the domestic piano world and was known as the youngest master in the country, He still felt that the one he wanted to spend the rest of his life with the most was still Zhuo Jingxi. I care about you so much. Why did you reject me like this? He had also seen Zhuo Jingxi's crazy work, and he knew what Zhuo Jingxi was after. Wasn't it because she wanted to prove herself in front of her parents? She wanted them to understand that without him, Zhuo Jingxi, could still live a good and happy life. Originally, Zhou Long did not care about this. It was not easy to make a name for oneself in the school's administrative system. However, Zhou Long panicked when he heard that she had been selected as an advanced counselor this semester and had also become a member of the Youth League Committee of the college. He was afraid that if he continued to wait like this, she would really be able to find a way in the administration during her PhD studies. If that happened, he would truly lose her. This time, Zhuo Jingxi's parents had forcefully brought her here. This was also the opportunity that Zhou Long had long prepared for a showdown. First, he would buy the car and put it under Zhuo Jingxi's name. Then he would buy the house. Then, the two of them would be completely settled. He really did not want to drag things out like this. Zhuo Jingxi was not in the mood to care about what her parents and Zhou Long were struggling over. She jogged to catch up with Chen Guang, who was walking far away. Chen Guang, wait a minute. Don't be angry. I'll apologize to you on behalf of my mother, okay? Chen Guang quietly turned his head and chuckled. Teacher Zhuo, don't overthink things. Would I really be angry over such a small matter? I'm not such a petty person. I understand what you're planning. Don't worry, I'll go smash Zhou Long's fingers tonight and take drastic measures against him.
What?
Don't do anything stupid. Zhuo Jingxi panicked and grabbed Chen Guang's shoulder. You can't think like that. It's against the law, and you'll go to jail. Chen Guang continued to chuckle. I'll just wear a mask. I guarantee that no one will know. No. I can't let you take this risk. Although I hate him very much, and that marriage arrangement was something that my parents and he agreed to all along, I never agreed to it myself. But I won't allow you to use violence. You're my student. I have to take responsibility for you. How can I let you hurt someone for me? Chen Guang stopped and shrugged. Then what do you think we should do? Zhuo Jingxi shook her head blankly. I don't know what to do either. Just keep me company today. I'm really disgusted by Zhou Long. She pulled Chen Guang again and quickly told Chen Guang the whole story. Chen Guang glared at her with a look of pity and anger. I was wondering why you work so hard. So there's something like this. If you don't like him, just say so. I can't help it. I've said it so many times, but it's useless. If it was useful, I wouldn't be here today. Zhuo Jingxi shook her head helplessly. You're too weak. If you had the vigor that you had when you talked back to Wang Ren, this would have been over a long time ago. What day and age are we living in now? There's no such thing as an arranged marriage. You didn't even agree to it, so how can there be a fiancé? Nonsense. Chen Guang could not help but pity Zhuo Jingxi. Zhuo Jingxi continued to shake her head. It's not the same. Wang Ren is Wang Ren. They're my parents after all. I can't do it. If you can't do it, then you'll disgust yourself for the rest of your life? Since your parents like him so much, why don't you let them adopt him as their godson? The effect will be the same.
Stop joking.
I don't understand. Although I also feel disgusted by that Zhou guy, since he's so good at the piano, he's quite rich and he likes you. Why don't you agree to it? I think it's pretty good. Zhuo Jingxi glared at him fiercely. Don't you ever say something like that again. I'm so angry. Just because he likes me, I have to like him? Just because he's rich, I have to live with him? Then aren't you quite rich too? You're richer than him? You just have to shout and I'll live with you? Chen Guang smacked his lips and said seriously, that's possible. Zhuo Jingxi was taken aback by his serious expression. Hey, don't take what I said seriously, okay? I want to live my life with people, not with money. Besides, I'll be graduating next year. I still want to continue my studies. I don't want to get married at all. I'm not studying PhD just to hide from Zhou Long. I really want to become an outstanding environmental researcher. I want to do more for our country, no, for humanity. The pollution is too serious now. Sooner or later, humanity will lose its last piece of pure land. Chen Guang was shocked by her righteous words. He felt that Zhuo Jingxi's face was glowing like a saint's. Why are you looking at me like that? Great man. I've become your fan, Teacher Zhuo. In the end, Chen Guang did not leave and was pulled back by Zhuo Jingxi. Her goal was very simple. She really wanted to use Chen Guang to help her block Zhou Long. Her reason was also very simple. Chen Guang knew cars very well. Didn't Zhou Long want to buy a car? I'll find a real master to help you choose one. In fact, Chen Guang didn't have much research on these basic models, but he had mingled with Hong Kong's Golden Wrench GF for a few days, not to mention that he was an invincible racing god. So it wasn't a problem for him to come up with some nonsense to fool others. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.